Chapter 845. There was a mistake in yesterday's chapter. There should be 11 completed Great Tao talismans. I missed out on the ceiling talisman, so I'll fix it now. I feel a little dizzy today. It's very painful. This holy city was exceptionally majestic and boundless. It was large enough to accommodate hundreds of millions of people living freely in the city. In the sky above, there was a purple sky. In the sky, there were countless purple auspicious clouds formed by the true dragon Purple Chi. Suddenly, a boundless emperor's aura spread out, causing all the cultivators under the sky to feel like they were being suppressed. It was as if they had walked into someone else's world. The city was bustling with activity. There were almost no ordinary people in the city. All of them were cultivators who had cultivated before. Countless shops and residences were scattered all over the ancient city. The streets were crisscrossed and had a clear hierarchy. On the streets, there was an endless stream of people. Countless cultivators entered and exited the shops and restaurants. In the east, there was an inner city. In the inner city, there was an imperial palace. There were groups of maids in the palace, each of them extremely beautiful. They looked like fairies in the heavenly palace. It was very pleasing to the eye. Palaces and pavilions were arranged in a strange pattern in the imperial palace. It naturally had a solemn and profound aura. When the cultivators in the city saw the imperial palace, they would naturally show a look of respect. Oomph! What a demon emperor of the demon race! You even dared to kill my beloved third prince. Even your soul was suppressed under the 4 heavenly gates and trampled on by those who enter and leave. What great desertion! You're humiliating this emperor. In an ancient hall, a middle-aged man who was shrouded in purple light and whose face couldn't be seen clearly sat on a dragon throne. He was wearing a purple emperor's robe and an emperor's crown, and his voice was low and angry. Clearly, there was a strong sense of anger in his voice. This middle-aged emperor was one of the most powerful figures in the heavenly world, the leader of the ancient emperor dynasty, the ancient emperor. The ancient emperor's aura that had been cultivated for countless years made it impossible for people to look at him directly. The natural aura that he exuded was enough to shatter the void. His eyes were golden and contained emperor's might. His voice was filled with anger, and he said coldly, "The Jade Lake Grand Meeting and the Feast of Peaches. Although I'm restricted by the sovereign's order, and I can't do it personally, I won't let you do as you please." His voice carried an indescribable charm. There seemed to be a faint smell of blood. In the heavenly fragrance, great world. Within the sky incense valley. Xiang, you can't miss the Feast of Peaches held by the Demon King this time. When the time comes, you will lead the disciples of the valley there. I believe that with the help of the incense offerings before, our idea of uniting with the demon tribe may have a chance to be realized. If possible, we must build a floating fragrance valley in the 1,000 Demon City. A delicate voice sounded. Mother, don't worry. I understand. I don't think the Demon King would reject the good intentions of our Sky Incense Valley. A clear and melodious voice echoed throughout the valley. In the eyes of countless forces in the universe, the Feast of Immortality was definitely not just a simple banquet. It was also the best opportunity to establish a good relationship with the Demon Clan. The Devil Race. The Devil Race now had the capital to be taken seriously by all the forces in the universe. The 4 great armies were all at the ancient Great Demon Realm. This was not to be underestimated. In addition, the ancient city had already been upgraded to a supreme divine artifact. The ancient city had become a world of its own. It was not filled with acquired vital energy, but the rare Sciention vital energy. This was enough to make the rise of the Devil Race unstoppable. On the surface and in the dark, the Devil Race was like a terrifying beast with the potential to become an overlord. No one wanted to be unlucky at this moment. Because of the Feast of Peaches, the entire universe was in an uproar. However, all this was meaningless to Desertion. He entered the exquisite pagoda directly. Each level of the pagoda was filled with large amounts of monsters. The first level was filled with monsters that had yet to take human form, while the second level was filled with small monsters that had already taken human form. The higher the level, the higher the cultivation level of the monsters required to enter, and similarly, the higher the level. The levels were clear. They made use of the exquisite pagoda's ability to reverse time to cultivate. There were a total of 9 levels in the exquisite pagoda. However, Tion had only broken through to the 6th level. After that, due to various reasons, he was unable to continue. With his current battle strength, he could break through the entire exquisite pagoda. After entering the pagoda, he did not immediately break through the restrictions. Instead, he went straight to the 6th level, found a quiet mountain, and sat down cross-legged. The time in the 6th level was 250 times of the outside world. After entering, he did not do anything else. He directly activated the Book of Imperial Shocking World. Starting from the first volume, he started to cultivate again. He channeled the true force of the Imperial Extreme True Force and circulated it in every demon vein. Boom! Boom! In the void, various desires descended. Happiness, anger, sorrow, fear, seeing, taste, fragrance, touch, will, hearing, and even the newly opened worried demon vein led to the power of worry. 11 types of desires continuously flowed through the countless pores of his body and quickly entered his body. They fell into the demon palace and were refined into the purest form of Imperial Extreme True Force. Within the demon abode, the 11th grade Black Lotus was constantly rotating at a constant speed. Every rotation seemed to contain a mysterious Tao rhythm. Within the Black Lotus, the purplish gold Royal True Force was like a sea that was filled with seawater. However, the Black Lotus was vast, and the Royal True Force only occupied 20% of the Black Lotus capacity. The true force of the Imperial Extreme True Force that was absorbed from the outside world and transformed into Imperial Extreme True Force. Although the amount was not small, to this 11th rank Black Lotus, it was like a cup of water in a burning cart of firewood. It was just a drop in the ocean. He did not see how it moved at all. If he wanted to fully absorb it at normal speed, he would not be able to do it without 5,000 to 6,000 years. However, at the same time of cultivation, it was also a process of tempering. Tion did not have the slightest bit of impatience. While he was activating the cultivation technique, his mind was constantly recalling the various battle scenes from before. Various scenes were rapidly revolving and flashing in his mind. His mind was constantly absorbing the experience and essence, integrating it into his own body and transforming it into his own cultivation realm. At this point, his early ancient heavenly demon realm had been completely stabilized. At the same time, there were 5 immortal divine rings that were derived from his flesh and blood. They were constantly rotating, crushing the demon body inch by inch and tempering it. Cultivation knew no time. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed in this cultivation. However, in the outside world, only half a month had passed. Huff! He slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, opened his eyes, and muttered to himself, "Cultivation knows no time. These 10 years have only allowed me to absorb the insights and battle experiences of these years. The true power of my body did not grow quickly. It seems that to reach the ancient heavenly demon realm, every small step forward is an extremely long process. Of course, before becoming an ancient celestial demon, you can rely on various treasures to rapidly increase your cultivation. However, once you become an ancient celestial demon, your cultivation will focus on a kind of willpower. Wherever your willpower goes, everything will be reduced to dust. Every move you make will be imbued with supreme willpower. Furthermore, this kind of willpower is unique to you. It is a kind of state, a kind of understanding, and a kind of understanding of your own temperament. Only the Supreme can create all miracles and change the world. The most important thing is to transform the Tao into the Supreme Will. Without the Supreme Will that goes against the heavens and fights against life, it is impossible to break the shackles of heaven and earth and become a peerless expert. At that time, no external force will be able to help you. Only your own body is eternal. The will is immortal and will last forever. Dark said very seriously. It was as if he was explaining the future path of cultivation to Sakura Shurtion. Every word and sentence was as smooth and clear as a pearl. Yes, D. Shurtion had always valued Dark's advice. After pondering for a while, he nodded and said, I see. I was wondering why I felt that I could not continue when I created the 11th volume. So this is the problem. After the Feast of Immortality and returning to the purple gold mainland, I will devote all my attention to cultivation. However, he paused, looked up at the sky, and said meaningfully, now is the time to go and see that lightning dragon. As soon as D. Shurtion's voice fell, his entire body mysteriously disappeared from the exquisite treasure pagoda. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the inner world of Tion Fa. Looking at the inner world now, it was no longer as barren as before. Under the ground, countless dragon veins were shuttling back and forth, forming mountains. Countless flowers and trees were born and grew like towering trees. Beneath the ground, innumerable streams of draconic chi were gathered, and the air was filled with abundant Sciention origin energy. Compared to before, the inner world had expanded by several times, perhaps even dozens of times. With the support of the origin energy, the inner world was constantly expanding. At this moment, it was already 30,000 zhong wide. Compared to the initial 10,000 zhong, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. In the void, there was a grotesque and variegated scene. 7 colors swirled, and the power of desire turned into clouds that floated in the sky. In the deepest part of these desire clouds, there was a magical picture scroll that was connected to the inner world. It was filled with endless desire energy. It seemed to be the source of desire. The barrier of the inner world was unusually strong. In the picture scroll, there were many holy spirits sitting cross-legged, emitting endless purple emperor chi and desire energy. This picture scroll was D. Shurtion's territory, the virtual illusory realm. A picture appeared in the virtual illusory realm, a colossal dragon that was no less than 30,000 feet long, and its entire body was like an amethyst crystal. Perfect amethyst dragon scales covered every inch of its body, and it had 9 claws under its body. It naturally exuded a ferocious aura. In front of it, countless food appeared like a tide. Countless shiny treasures were piled up under its body, and a large amount of delicious food was being swallowed into its stomach. In its eyes, there was a look of joy and indulgence. In its eyes, there was only the endless food. It was constantly struggling. It was the primordial thunder dragon that it had absorbed in the land of chaos years ago. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 846. Do you want to tame this immemorial thunder dragon? Ming knew Sakura very well and could see his intention at a glance. He couldn't help but say in surprise, this primordial thunder dragon is not simple. If you hadn't trapped it with the virtual illusory land, with its battle strength, there wouldn't be many ancient giants who could harm its life. It's almost a god that was born in the endless thunder. Moreover, it is almost impossible to tame it. Inside its body, since birth, its divine soul is extremely strange. It is protected by a mysterious power. It is impossible to forcibly enslave it and put a seal on it. Unless it is willing, it is very difficult to tame it except for the dominator. The immemorial 9 dragons were like the favored children of heaven and earth. They were protected by a mysterious power in their bodies. Unless they were willing, it was difficult to imprison them with any restriction. How would you know if you don't try? D. Shurtion smiled indifferently and took a step forward. Suddenly, his whole body entered the virtual illusory land. As soon as he entered the illusory land, there was a familiar feeling emerging from the bottom of his heart. It was like a wanderer returning home. This place was formed by his realm, which meant that it was a part of him. The virtual illusory land did not affect him at all. Looking at the immemorial thunder dragon in front of him, who was still immersed in the endless illusory land, He could not extricate himself. Although it was powerful, its identity as an immemorial 9 dragon made the growth of its spiritual intelligence extremely slow. Its ferocious nature had become its instinct, which surpassed its spiritual intelligence. However, he was strong enough to be comparable to the pinnacle of the ancient giants. Disperse. Sakura lightly spat out a word. Suddenly, in front of the immemorial thunder dragon, the originally happy life had completely changed. The endless delicacies were gone, and the sparkling treasures were also gone. The power of the virtual, illusory land gradually dissipated from its body. Suddenly, the immemorial thunder dragon, who seemed to be living in a dream, woke up. Its huge eyes were gradually covered by traces of ferocious light. Roar! The immemorial thunder dragon let out a terrible dragon roar that seemed to only exist in the immemorial era. Its eyes focused on Shirtion. Its eyes were blazing with ferocious light, and the purple crystal dragon claw under its body directly blasted forward. The claw blasted down like the weight of Mount Tai. The domineering dragon power was unstoppable. It made his soul tremble. Indestructible imperial body. 5 indestructible divine rings immediately emerged from his flesh and blood. They revolved around his body and emitted a glazed divine light, as if they were real. He stood in front of the immemorial thunder dragon without even moving. Bang! Instantly, the first immortal divine ring was destroyed, followed by the second and the third. However, the fourth immortal divine ring was extremely tough, and it blocked the ancient thunder dragon's attack. It cannot land on Shirtion. Primordial thunder dragon, you actually dare to attack me in I's inner world? You really don't know how to write the word death. Virtual illusory land. Shirtion did not care about the dragon claw that was right in front of him as he shouted indifferently. Suddenly, the power of desire entered the immemorial thunder dragon's body crazily. Roar! Of course, in front of the immemorial thunder dragon, there were countless terrifying scenes. Countless scenes that frightened it, such as the other 8 immemorial dragons besieging it at the same time, or being imprisoned in the abyss without any food for thousands of years, or being killed by an expert, etc. For a time, all kinds of terrifying scenes immediately made the immemorial thunder dragon roar in fear. Countless scenes of terror assaulted its mind like a tidal wave. Its intelligence. Disperse. Shirtion waited for a full quarter of an hour before he spat out a word. Suddenly, the power of desire that wrapped around the immemorial thunder dragon quickly dissipated. With this dissipation, the immemorial thunder dragon's consciousness suddenly began to awaken again. The fear dissipated and the fierce instinct took the upper hand again. The moment it saw Shirtion, it did not hesitate and blasted out another claw. Fear! Shirtion did not wait for the dragon claw to fall and said again. Immediately, the endless power of fear quickly drilled into its body. Immediately, in its mind, countless scenes that were full of fear flashed again. For a time, Shirtion stood in the virtual, illusionary realm, constantly using the power of desire to invade the consciousness of the immemorial thunder dragon, constantly wearing down the fierce nature of the body, constantly letting it reincarnate in fear and sobriety, endlessly tasting the erosion of all kinds of desires. It made the immemorial thunder dragon scream again and again. This erosion lasted for 3 days. 3 days later, he looked at the immemorial thunder dragon again. The originally ferocious and incomparably domineering ancient lightning dragon had strangely become abnormally dispirited. Its huge dragon body lay on the ground, as if it did not have the slightest bit of strength. Its lifeless eyes looked towards Sakura, and for the first time, a terrified expression was revealed within its eyes. The kind of endless cycle of desire almost caused its mind to collapse. Immemorial thunder dragon, I know that you are one of the immemorial 9 dragons. You have a certain level of wisdom and can understand my words. Now, I ask you, are you willing to follow I? Shirtion saw that the immemorial thunder dragon was almost tortured to the point where it had no strength, and finally opened his mouth to ask. His body naturally revealed a kind of intimidating majesty, which belonged to the demon emperor, surging towards the thunder dragon like a tide. This was especially so when he was in his inner world. In his inner world, he was the supreme god. That majesty was even more unpredictable. He even displayed his own heaven-defying combat strength. Why should this dragon follow you? The immemorial thunder dragon let out a hoarse voice. That voice, no matter how soft it was, had the feeling of thunder. His ears were buzzing, and it was very scary. Tion was very serious and sincerely looked at the two dragon eyes of the immemorial thunder dragon and said, "Follow me, and there will be meat to eat." In those words, there was an indescribable sincerity that entered the thunder dragon's mind. The immemorial thunder dragon's eyes suddenly lit up. It opened its mouth wide, and its saliva was about to flow out. In a virtual, illusory realm, although it had never heard of eating, that was just an illusion. In fact, it had been hungry for many years. Now, when it heard of eating, it immediately drooled. Its eyes lit up, evoking its deepest desire. "Follow me, and you will be protected by my demon clan. With luck on your body, you will be able to transform faster and gain wisdom. In the future, you will have the chance to become the great ancient dragon emperor and be a peerless expert." Tian's words seemed to have a strange, inciting power and constantly fell into the ears of the immemorial thunder dragon. "This dragon wants to eat meat. If you give me meat to eat, I will submit to you." The immemorial thunder dragon's eyes were about to narrow, and it immediately shouted loudly. It was unusually persistent about food. "Good. As long as you wear this iron chain, I can satisfy you no matter how much you want to eat." Tian waved his hand, and suddenly, a huge chariot instantly appeared in mid-air. As soon as the chariot appeared, it was as if an ancient emperor had descended, exuding a supreme emperor aura. The chariot was purple gold in color, and on the surface, there were countless mysterious emperor runes, as if countless creatures were worshipping an ancient emperor. It was suffused with bursts of light, intertwining together like a huge purple gold sun, exuding a dazzling divine brilliance. The supreme noble aura was even more obvious. Even the all-heavens cultivators, even if their cultivation base was slightly weaker, when they saw the chariot, they could not even open their eyes because of the divine brilliance. In an instant, their spirit would be crushed by the pressure of the chariot. Their physical body would explode into flesh and blood, and their eyes would be blinded. Just this chariot alone seemed to be able to suppress the entire void. Moreover, every part of the chariot was extremely exquisite and gorgeous, and there was a canopy that set off the majesty of an emperor. On both sides of the chariot, there was a battle spear hanging. In front of the chariot, there were 9 purple gold chains. Each chain was condensed from mysterious runes, and they seemed to contain a strange power that could restrain heaven and earth. These chains were used to restrain the strange beasts pulling the chariot. "The celestial emperor's chariot?" Dark exclaimed. "Madman D, do you want to use the immemorial thunder dragon to pull the celestial emperor's chariot?" "No, my goodness, you're not only thinking about the immemorial thunder dragon, but also the entire immemorial 9 dragons. You want to use the immemorial 9 dragons to pull the celestial emperor's chariot." After seeing the mysterious chariot with the supreme emperor's aura, even someone as bold as Dark couldn't help but jump in fright. Since the celestial emperor's chariot is in my hands, it would be a waste to leave it idle. Tian looked at the celestial emperor's chariot. Because he cultivated the emperor's Tao, the divine brilliance on the chariot did not obstruct him at all. On the contrary, as soon as he got close to the chariot, an extremely mysterious power began to activate the royal true force in his body. He could better understand the charm of the Emperor's Tao. This was a supreme treasure of the Emperor's Tao. Crash! The chains on the chariot vibrated, emitting a crisp sound that seemed to resound in the soul. "Come, this is the one and only celestial Emperor's chariot in this world. It itself is a top connate spirit treasure. Although it is a chariot, it is not a disgrace to your identity as one of the immemorial 9 dragons. Di Shurtian gently pointed at one of the 9 chains on the chariot. Immediately, the chain flew into the air and wrapped around the immemorial Thunder Dragon's neck. A trace of resistance flashed in the immemorial Thunder Dragon's eyes when he saw this. However, after glancing at Di Shurtian, that trace of resistance dissipated and he allowed the chain to bind his neck. Crash! When the chain bound the immemorial Thunder Dragon, countless purple gold talismans burst out from the chain and poured into the Thunder Dragon's body like a tide. The moment they touched the dragon's body, they immediately entered the dragon's body and connected with the Thunder Dragon's soul. In an instant, the immemorial Thunder Dragon felt a mysterious connection with the celestial Emperor's chariot. At the same time, from the chariot, a mysterious power poured into the immemorial Thunder Dragon's body and quickly cleansed his vast dragon body. It even entered his mind, and vaguely, his consciousness became abnormally clear. It seemed like the chariot was feeding back power to him. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 847. Although the immemorial 9 dragons were powerful, it was extremely difficult for them to gain intelligence. This was a kind of barrier and restriction placed on them by heaven and earth. Otherwise, once they gained intelligence with their foundation, they would be able to break into the ranks of unparalleled experts in a short period of time and reach the peak. Each of them was a kind of rule of heaven and earth, born from the laws. Controlling the power of heaven and earth, they were blessed by heaven and earth. It was because their potential was too strong that even heaven and earth would be jealous of them and imprison them. Without a great opportunity, it was impossible for them to truly awaken their spiritual cavities. Although they had a certain level of intelligence, they would still be controlled by the bestial nature in their bodies. When their ferocious nature was unleashed, they would be incomparably violent. However, now that the immemorial Thunder Dragon had agreed to submit to Di Shurtian and was bound by the chains on the celestial Emperor's chariot, waves of Emperor's power flowed from the chains and from the chariot into the Thunder Dragon's body. They turned into dense purple and gold chi and entered the Thunder Dragon's spiritual cavities, as if they were slowly nourishing it. In an instant, the immemorial Thunder Dragon felt its consciousness become unprecedentedly clear, as if it had become a little smarter. Its originally dispirited expression was swept away. Purple lightning circulated around its body, and countless lightning bolts appeared out of nowhere. The dragon's aura emitted caused the surrounding space to faintly distort. Good. Immemorial Thunder Dragon, from today onwards, you will follow I to conquer the myriad worlds and the demon god continent. The future will be splendid. You will definitely not regret your decision today. Let us fight side by side. Haha, Madman D. This celestial emperor's chariot was built by gathering the power of countless races in ancient times. It is an emperor's supreme treasure. It is said that a chaotic heavenly dragon was slain in the chaos, and the dragon's bones were fused into the chariot. Combined with the emperor's purple chi of countless emperors, the chariot can automatically produce Emperor's dragon essence. It is even more miraculous than Emperor's purple chi. It is the treasure essence that emperors yearn for even in their dreams. You are the first master, and you cultivate the Emperor's Tao. As long as you get on, you will immediately receive the dragon essence from the chariot. Your mind is connected to the chariot. Let the chariot recognize you as its master. Ming suddenly recalled something and hurriedly reminded him excitedly. Di Shurtian watched as the immemorial Thunder Dragon appeared in front of the Celestial Emperor's war chariot and pulled it. The mighty dragon's body and the Celestial Emperor's war chariot looked like a match made in heaven. Originally, the Celestial Emperor's war chariot was like an inanimate object. Now that it was being pulled by the immemorial Thunder Dragon, it suddenly burst forth with endless divine light, as though it had come to life. He soared into the air. Yi Futian landed on the Celestial Emperor's war chariot, but he did not enter it. Instead, he stood on the war chariot. In an instant, countless Emperor's Path mystiques flooded into his body, cleansing him. A surge of pure Emperor Dragon essence fiercely poured into his flesh. Whoosh! The extreme Emperor indestructible body activated on its own. Divine rings quickly emerged from his flesh and blood. Sorrow, joy, taste, anger, and fear. The 4 undying divine rings appeared one after another. Starting from his feet, they began to grind his legs into dust like a giant grindstone. What a tyrannical Emperor Dragon essence. Such pure energy. Good, good, good. The undying obsession of fear has all entered I's body. When the Emperor Dragon essence entered his body, the impact was so strong that it felt like it was going to explode his entire body. If it were not for his strong physical body and the extreme Emperor indestructible body, he would have been crushed in an instant. As for the undying divine rings that were born from his flesh and blood, with the tyrannical Emperor Dragon essence as the source of power, they began to operate at an unprecedented speed. It was extremely fast. Starting from his feet, he was rapidly grinded into dust at a speed visible to the naked eye. Because the undying obsession of the undying obsession in the virtual illusory realm was extremely strong. Upon his call, it poured into his body and fell into the 5th undying divine ring, the halo of fear. It merged with the Emperor Dragon essence, using the extreme Emperor indestructible body's activation method. In an instant, they merged together. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the entire celestial Emperor's war chariot shook violently. The purple-gold divine radiance was unprecedentedly strong. It enveloped the entire war chariot like a blazing purple-gold sun. Yi Futian could not even open his eyes. Ding, ding, ding. His flesh and blood reformed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Within the undying divine ring of fear, a divine spirit with Di Shutian's appearance suddenly appeared. His face was filled with anger, and there were true dragons coiling around his body. The moment the divine spirit appeared, the undying divine ring also underwent a transformation. The entire divine ring suddenly condensed into a purple-gold divine ring that resembled a glaze. Countless mysterious runes flickered on it. The 5th undying divine ring was completed. Extreme Emperor indestructible body, I have broken through to the 6th level. The Emperor Dragon essence that had poured into his body from the Celestial Emperor's war chariot was not completely depleted. It continued to pour into his body. Opportunity. This was an opportunity given by the Celestial Emperor's war chariot. How could he let it go so easily? In response, Di Shutian did not integrate the Emperor Dragon essence into the 11th tier Black Lotus. Instead, he used it to strengthen his demon body and body. Every breakthrough in the extreme Emperor indestructible body was a huge improvement. The reason why he was able to possess heaven-defying battle strength comparable to a peak ancient heavenly demon was because of the strength of his demon body. Moreover, the physical body only required a vast amount of energy. Before reaching the 11th level, there was no bottleneck at all. As long as there was a huge amount of energy, the boundless undying could continue to break through. This was the best shortcut to increasing one's strength. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Di Shutian's entire body expanded violently. 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet. In the blink of an eye, he had reached the limit of his demon body. His demon body was 70,000 feet tall. The 5 undying divine rings continued to revolve. It was as if an ancient emperor had descended. Bang! The 5 indestructible divine rings started to circulate crazily after receiving the support of the Emperor Dragon Shi. It was like a giant grinding mill, crushing the 70,000 feet long demonic body. Above the Celestial Emperor's war chariot, 129,600 drops of purple gold blood essence were condensed. Each drop of blood essence was sparkling and translucent like a purple crystal. Each drop of blood essence had a small, indestructible divine ring revolving around it. Boom! In the virtual land, countless indestructible obsessions shook violently. After the 5 indestructible obsessions of self, happiness, anger, sorrow, fear, and taste, the indestructible obsessions of hearing also descended and merged into the drops of blood. Boundless Emperor Dragon essence was poured into the drops. The immortal Emperor body was transforming at an unprecedented speed. In just a short quarter of an hour, the blood essence gathered and formed a strange ancient formation. The undying body was displayed, and the demon body was formed. However, the demon body had grown to 80,000 feet in the blink of an eye, and there was another undying divine ring around it. The halo of hearing. The boundless Emperor Dragon essence had condensed the 6th undying divine ring to an extremely powerful level. It was just a little bit away from becoming a crystal and materializing into a real divine ring. Huff! Tion took a deep breath, and the undying divine ring around him quickly retracted. The powerful pressure also dissipated. The Emperor Dragon essence that gushed out from the Celestial Emperor's war chariot was completely absorbed. The immemorial Thunder Dragon turned around and looked at Tion. Its big dragon eyes were filled with fear. The pressure that was released just now had even made it feel a little fearful, especially the desire that was released from the undying divine ring. It had left a deep impression on it. It could not help but feel a strong sense of reverence towards Tion. Good. Crazy Emperor, your physical body has become stronger again. It's even stronger than before. Now, even among the ancient heavenly demons, you're at the peak. Dark nodded in satisfaction. Although his cultivation realm had not increased, his combat strength had become stronger. His physical body was so strong that even precious treasures could not break it. Clang! Tion was not moved by such praise. He reached out and pulled out the purple gold battle spear on the left side of the war chariot. He could feel a terrifying power that could destroy all things on the battle spear. Countless purple gold divine runes intertwined, as if drawing out the supreme power that judged heaven and earth. They intertwined to form 2 strange emperor runes, judgment. When the heavenly emperor was angry, all things would be destroyed. Blood would flow like rivers. When the heavenly emperor was angry, he had the supreme power to judge all things in the world. This was the Judgment Battle Spear. It was a celestial emperor battle weapon created by the various races in the ancient era because the demon race had fought against the demon god and fought a bloody battle against the heavenly dome of heaven for their boundless righteousness and boundless benevolence. They had endlessly admired the demon race and created a celestial emperor battle weapon, granting the celestial emperor supreme authority. With this battle spear in hand, one had the power to judge all things in the world. What a good judgment battle spear. It's a pity that it needs the blood of the demon god, race's demon god, to be sharpened. Tion gently stroked the spear and inserted it back into the war chariot. Clang! With a move of his right hand, he pulled out another battle spear that shone with silver-white divine radiance. This battle spear also contained a terrifying power that could purify the world. The Emperor runes intertwined, and there were 2 mysterious ancient words on it. Demon Slayer. This was the Demon Slayer battle spear. It meant that the demon god race was an irreconcilable enemy of the origin world and should be exterminated. This was the responsibility of slaying the Demon Slayer. As the heavenly emperor, he had to bear the brunt of the battle against the demon gods. Of the 2 battle spears, one was power, and the other was responsibility. This was the identity and power that the heavenly emperor was bestowed by the various worlds. This war chariot was not an imperial chariot because it was used to proclaim martial prowess. Unfortunately, when the heavenly emperor battle chariot was completed, the heavenly emperor battle chariot was destroyed. From the beginning, the heavenly emperor battle chariot had never displayed its true power. Power and responsibility? Tion inserted the Demon Slayer battle spear back into the war chariot. These 2 battle spears were one with the war chariot. He looked into the void with a deep gaze and exuded a strong sense of confidence. Heavenly Emperor battle chariot. O heavenly Emperor battle chariot, from today onwards, you or I's battle chariot. Look, you and I can move unhindered, and no one dares to disobey us. Since your birth, you belong to the demon race. In the future, your name will spread throughout the heavens and earth. The Heavenly Emperor battle chariot was sent out of the virtual illusory realm and back to the inner world. A large number of demon race members had already heard the news and sent over countless food. The immemorial thunder dragon opened its mouth and devoured without restraint. Let's go to the Bedlam lands. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 848. Roar. The immemorial thunder dragon pulled the celestial emperor's chariot. The 4 purplish gold wheels under the chariot started to roll in the void, bursting with purplish gold flames. The flames were blazing like the trajectory of the heavenly Tao and the epic trajectory of the reproduction of countless living beings in the heavens. This was the first time the celestial emperor's chariot was being pulled since the primordial age. The immemorial thunder dragon raised its head proudly. Its purple dragon scales shone with divine radiance. It shook its body and burst forth with great power, pulling the celestial emperor's chariot. It charged out of the exquisite pagoda. The dragon's roar shook the entire demon city. Countless demon race cultivators and even all heaven's cultivators looked up into the sky. When they saw the celestial emperor's chariot appear with a loud rumble, they felt a pressure emanating from their souls that made them feel a deep sense of reverence. A terrifying heavenly pressure made them lower their heads involuntarily. They bent their bodies. Rumble. The celestial emperor's chariot turned into a purplish gold sun. Under the immemorial thunder dragon's chariot, it sped out of the demon city and into the void. Billions of purplish gold divine radiance spread out, shattering countless meteorites wherever it went. It seemed slow, but it disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Hiss! Countless cultivators gasped in shock. My goodness, what was that? What a huge dragon! It's 300,000 feet long. I've never seen such a huge true dragon before. It's only used to pull a chariot. That chariot is really scary. Just one look at it, and I feel fear and respect for my soul. It's as if I saw the supreme celestial emperor. I'm as small as an ant under that chariot. My goodness, is that a demon emperor sitting on the chariot? What chariot is that? Some cultivators were so frightened that they swallowed their tongues. The pressure was too terrifying. It's a purplish gold dragon. It's surrounded by lightning and has 9 claws. Is that dragon one of the legendary primordial 9 dragons, the immemorial thunder dragon? My goodness, if that's really the immemorial thunder dragon, what kind of chariot is it pulling? Is it the celestial emperor's chariot from the primordial age? The celestial emperor's war chariot. The legendary celestial emperor's war chariot. This is a war chariot created by gathering all the races in the universe. Didn't such a war chariot disappear in ancient times? Why would it appear here and fall into the hands of the demon emperor? Could it be that the demon emperor is truly the master of destiny of the demon race? In an instant, all sorts of discussions rang out in the ancient city. The appearance of the celestial emperor's war chariot shocked countless cultivators. Its aura was too overbearing. In a restaurant in the ancient city, in a private room, there were 3 silhouettes. They were none other than the 3 pests of the heaven realm. Qing Yuan, Lan Yu, and Shun Gong retracted their gazes from the celestial emperor's war chariot. Their hearts were clearly not calm. Is that the celestial emperor's war chariot? Qing Yuan stared at Shun Gongbao with deep eyes. It was as if she wanted to get confirmation from him. Yes, this is the celestial emperor's war chariot. I didn't expect His Majesty to find an ancient thunder dragon to pull the chariot. Shun Gongbao was also surprised. He paused and smiled at the 2 old friends in front of him. Now I've found a place to stay. From now on, I can't leave my identity as a member of the Demon City. What do you think? What do you think of what I just said? As long as you are willing to stay, with the Demon Emperor's magnanimity, he will definitely treat you well. Elixirs. The Demon Emperor has a large number of heavenly vitality elixirs, as well as a large number of longevity elixirs, various spiritual wines, and a large number of resources for your cultivation. Moreover, you should have nothing to worry about. Qing Yuan, you are a half-demon. In the human race, you have always been discriminated against and will not accept. Lan Yu, you are from the Ice Snow clan. Now is the time for the demon race to flourish. With the demon city as a supreme divine artifact, there are only a handful of people in the world who can destroy the foundation of the demon race. The rise of the demon race is unstoppable. If you work in the demon city, it will be extremely beneficial to the Ice Snow clan behind you. Shun Gongbao's mouth was full of lotus flowers. With a gentle smile on his face, he quickly said all kinds of tempting words. He wanted to recruit these two friends for Di Shitian. Whether it was Qing Yuan or Lan Yu, they were both experts who had stepped into the eternal giant realm. Since they had agreed to submit, Shun Gongbao naturally began a plan for the future of the demon city. Previously, Di Shitian had shown all kinds of trump cards. The supreme demon city had filled him with confidence for the rise of the demon race. The original trace of resistance disappeared in an instant. He began to sincerely think of ways to increase his strength. The Celestial Emperor's war chariot. Interesting, really interesting. I am now more and more interested in the Demon Emperor. Moreover, even you have joined. Count me, Lan Yuan. We are the three evils of the heaven realm. If we don't have you, Shun Gongbao, wouldn't we only exist in name? Lan Yu's eyes flashed with blue light, and the corner of his mouth pulled into a playful smile. If you don't mind my identity, I can join. Qing Yuan was silent for a while before he finally said. In his heart, there was always a barrier, and that was his origin, his identity. He was a half-demon born from the union of the demon race and the human race. In the human race, he was not liked at all. He had suffered a lot of discrimination. Naturally, he did not have much sense of belonging to the human race. If the demon race was willing to accept him, he would not have any scruples about betraying the human race. All right. When Shun Gongbao heard this, he smiled faintly and said, When the Demon Emperor returns, I will personally bring you there. After pausing for a while, he changed the topic and said, This time, you are in luck. There should be a seat for you at the Immortality Peach Banquet. The legendary Immortality Peach Tree. This should be the first time it bears fruit. The taste of the Immortality Peach Tree will definitely be extraordinary. Lan Yu licked his lips and said, Rumble. The immemorial Thunder Dragon was extremely fast, and the Celestial Emperor's war chariot was even faster. It shuttled through the endless void, moving forward in a straight line. Anything that stood in its way would be turned into dust. Although the Bedlam lands were constantly moving through the endless void, and once it disappeared, it would be extremely difficult to find it, but the immemorial Thunder Dragon seemed to have a unique ability to sense the Bedlam lands. Suddenly, the immemorial Thunder Dragon tore a hole in the void and pulled the Celestial Emperor's war chariot through it. Woo-woo. The scene in front of them changed abruptly. A fierce storm instantly swept toward the immemorial Thunder Dragon and the Celestial Emperor's war chariot. The storm was extremely dark, and it had a fishy smell. Just a whiff of it was enough to make one nauseous. If one came into contact with it, one would immediately turn into a pool of poisonous water. This was a toxic storm. Roar! The immemorial Thunder Dragon did not even have the urge to look at the toxic storm. It rushed into the storm and pulled the Celestial Emperor's war chariot through it. The poison could not stick to the Celestial Emperor's war chariot at all. It was immediately ground into nothingness. The Bedlam lands, I have finally returned. The Celestial Emperor's war chariot stopped in midair. Sitting on the war chariot, Di Shitian scanned his surroundings. Everywhere he looked, there were endless disasters. Toxic swamps, traps, black holes, lightning, poisonous flames, ice, and so on. All kinds of disasters seemed to appear out of nowhere. Even the air was filled with a terrifying aura of disaster. The dark sky was terrifyingly gloomy. Who knew how many terrifying beasts were hidden in the disasters? Lunatic D, Could it be that you came here to capture the immemorial 9 dragons? Underworld asked in shock. The Bedlam lands not only have the lightning dominion, but also the fire dominion and the ice dominion. If the lightning dominion can give birth to the immemorial thunder dragon, then it can give birth to the immemorial fire dragon and the immemorial yellow dragon. Only when the immemorial 9 dragons gather can the celestial emperor's war chariot's true power be unleashed. Tion did not hide his purpose in coming here. The myriad demon city was temporarily restricted by the ruler's order. Although the autarchs gave the demon race a place to live and reproduce, they were restricted and could not unleash their combat strength. Therefore, he needed to find a new means of transportation. The Celestial Emperor's war chariot was obviously the best treasure. If he had the immemorial 9 dragons to pull the chariot, he would even dare to fight against a peerless expert. The Bedlam lands were formed by a piece of chaos shard, so the chances of the immemorial 9 dragons being born here were very high. Let's go to the Fire Dominion. Tion said to the immemorial Thunder Dragon. Ever since entering the Bedlam lands, the immemorial Thunder Dragon's eyes were filled with excitement, as if he had returned home. When he heard Tian's order, he immediately moved his body and pulled the chariot, speeding towards the south. He was simply running amok. All kinds of disasters were destroyed in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Crack! Not long after he left, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the void. The crack did not appear on its own, but was torn open by a pair of hands. Swish, swish, swish. The crack did not close immediately after it was torn open. Inside, figures quickly shuttled out. In the blink of an eye, a total of 18 figures appeared in midair, all of them standing in the void. Strangely, the auras of these 18 figures were abnormally weak, as if they were ordinary people. Their auras were faintly discernible. They were uniformly dressed in pitch-black robes and wore strange cloaks that covered their faces, making it impossible for others to see their faces clearly. However, among them, one of the black-robed figures, who was obviously the leader, had a picture of a golden skull on his chest. The other black-robed figures only had pictures of bronze skulls on their chests. This seemed to be a symbol of their status. Third leader, we have just received news that the Demon King has entered the Bedlam lands. He should be in front of us, a black-robed figure said in a hoarse voice. All right, immediately spread out and search in all directions to find out the exact location of the Demon King. Be careful and hide. According to the news, the Demon King is driving the Celestial Emperor's war chariot. Be careful. After we find him, we will wait for an opportunity to kill him in one blow. The leader of the Golden Skeletons said in the same hoarse voice. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 849. Yes, third leader. The other 17 black-robed men replied at the same time. According to the Honorable Envoy, the Demon King has the battle prowess of an ancient tycoon. His physical body is extremely tough. He created the ultimate Emperor Immortal body, which is not inferior to the 9 Revolutions' mysterious art in the Land of Exile. Anyone who finds traces of the Demon King must not act rashly, lest they alert the enemy. They can only send out a signal. Once all 18 of us have gathered, we will surround and kill him. Remember not to forget. The third leader with the golden skull on his chest said in a low voice. After repeated reminders, he waved his hand and said, "Disperse." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Immediately, all the black-robed men quickly moved in different directions. Their cultivation techniques were quite strange. They seemed to be able to teleport as they moved. Moreover, their bodies were strangely between corporeal and intangible. They seemed to fuse with the darkness and shadows. Even the aura around them was unusually restrained. No one could detect the slightest bit of their aura. It was as if they did not exist at all. They moved like ghosts. In the blink of an eye, they all disappeared. Suddenly, A stack of dark green bamboo, leaves that looked like they had grown from bamboo, appeared in the hands of the 3 leaders of the golden skeletons. These bamboo leaves were completely like dark green crystals that were as transparent as jade. There were mysterious veins that interweaved and covered the entire bamboo leaf. There was not the slightest bit of aura seeping out from them. It was as if this was the most ordinary bamboo leaf. These seemingly ordinary bamboo leaves were held in the hands of the 3 leaders as if they were precious treasures. The most miraculous thing was that there was not only one such bamboo leaf. Instead, there was a stack that was as thin as a cicada's wings. The stack was not tall, but there were a total of 108 of them. Seal! With a clatter, the 108 bamboo leaves flew out of the 3 chiefs' hands. At the same time, they formed a series of mysterious hand seals and sent them into the bamboo leaves. In the blink of an eye, all the bamboo leaves fused into the space of the chaotic grounds. Mysterious shackles seemed to have been added to the space around the chaotic grounds. The forbidden space leaf bestowed by the honorable envoy is really mysterious. The 3rd leader sensed the change in the air and muttered to himself. He nodded to himself, then turned around and silently disappeared. Stop! The primordial lightning dragon was pulling the celestial emperor's war chariot. None of the disasters in the Bedlam lands could get within 100 zhang of the war chariot, as they would be crushed by the shockwaves. The war chariot traveled at an incredible speed, and in the blink of an eye, they could see a gigantic mountain of flames in the distance. That mountain soared into the sky, its entire body emitting blazing flames. The outermost flames were the most ordinary flames. Further up was the primordial fire in a cultivator's body. Further up was the samadhi primordial fire. Further up was the 6-fold primordial fire. Further up was the 90 primordial fire, and so on. The higher up the mountain of flames, the more terrifying the quality and power of the flames were. The most terrifying thing was that the flames on the flame mountain were exceptionally violent. Terrifying flames spread in all directions, enveloping a large area and forming a terrifying domain of fire. At the center of the fire domain was the gigantic flaming mountain. The celestial emperor's chariot hovered in the air without a dustpan. There were no bumps at all, as if it was walking on flat ground. The immemorial thunder dragon turned its head and looked at Di Shurtian in confusion. It seemed to be puzzled as to why its master had stopped at the fire domain instead of directly entering the fire domain. However, it was only puzzlement. Seeing that Di Shurtian had no intention of explaining, the immemorial thunder dragon breathed out a mouthful of dragon breath and hovered in the air. It shook its huge dragon head and looked around. Di Shurtian walked out of the emperor's chariot and stood on the chariot, carrying the slender tiger soul battle saber on his back. He didn't have any posture, just stood there naturally and connected to the chariot. He naturally exuded a peerless emperor's aura that shook the world, causing all the surrounding beasts to frantically flee as if a calamity was about to befall them. He looked up into the sky, his gaze deep, as if he was thinking about something. Within 100,000 zhang radius, all the various calamities seemed to have a mind of their own. They regarded the area around the celestial emperor's chariot as a forbidden zone and didn't dare to appear in this area. This caused a rare calm area to appear in the originally chaotic continent. At the edge of this area, behind a rock that was as tall as 3 people, a shadow flashed. Clang! Di Shurtian placed his hand on the tiger soul's slender saber hilt. With a twist of his wrist, the tiger soul came out of its scabbard with a crisp sound. He placed the slender, golden saber horizontally in front of him and gently stroked it with his left hand. On the saber's body, there were many fishbone-like saber runes that rippled like water. A golden tiger god emerged from the saber. It looked at Di Shurtian with an affectionate and sentimental expression. Tiger soul, oh tiger soul, ever since you were promoted to a middle-grade Earth-rank demonic weapon, you have yet to drink blood, Di Shurtian said to the tiger soul indifferently. Roar! The tiger soul's saber vibrated violently and let out a tyrannical tiger roar that thirsted for blood. The saber exuded a strong battle intent and killing intent. The tiger soul had accompanied Tion throughout his journey. It had gone through countless intense battles and drank the blood of countless experts. It had long been connected to Shurkian's heart and soul. It was his natal demonic weapon. All right, I will let you drink to your heart's content. If you want to drink the blood of an expert. Tion seemed to be careless. He held the tiger soul's slender saber hilt in his right hand and suddenly swung the saber in a random direction. Crack! It was indescribable how fast the saber was. It was even faster than lightning. A golden saber mark appeared in the air. The saber's sharpness was restrained, and there wasn't any divine radiance. However, the tiger soul saber was instantly extended to 5,000 zhang long. When the saber fell, it directly struck the huge rock that was as tall as 3 people to the right. Under the sharpness of the tiger soul, the rock was split open like tofu. It couldn't even block the saber. Blood flowed out from the split rock. The surrounding rocks exploded, and a figure in a black robe jumped out from the rocks. What was even more frightening was that the black-robed person's entire body was split in half from head to toe by the tiger soul. A large amount of blood essence was devoured by the tiger's soul like a tide. The terrifying saber light minced the body that was split into pieces on the spot. A shrill scream soared into the sky. The minced flesh seemed to have a mind of its own. It turned into thousands of pieces and quickly flew to the side. After flying for 1,000 zhang, all of them gathered together and wriggled strangely as if they had a life of their own. In the blink of an eye, a new body was formed. A black robe covered the entire body. Even after being split open, it could still gather together and regenerate. Regenerating flesh and blood, an immortal body. He's an ancient powerhouse. However, so what if he's an ancient powerhouse? He's so sneaky and petty. Sakura coldly glanced at him. The tiger's soul blade in his hand turned and suddenly swept towards the black-robed man. This blade caused the black-robed man to be incomparably shocked on the spot. He only felt that there was no way to dodge, no way to evade. Every blade and every move contained a terrifying will within the blade. Whoosh! A pitch-black skull flew out of his hand and exploded into the sky. A mysterious fluctuation spread out in all directions. Crack! The tiger's soul slashed the black-robed person's waist into 2 again. Roar! With a domineering tiger roar, a golden ray of light shot out from Shurtian's hand. The saber pierced the black-robed person's body. The terrifying power pierced through the black-robed person and sent him flying. He fell to the ground. A terrifying, devouring power came from the tiger's soul. A large amount of flesh and blood was swallowed by the tiger's soul into the saber. In the blink of an eye, the upper half of the black-robed person's body was devoured by the tiger's soul. The dark green pearl on the tiger's soul shone with a demonic light. Whoosh! The lower half of his body that was chopped off. When he saw that scene, he only felt that a casual chop from Sakura was like the punishment of heaven and earth. He didn't even have the strength to resist. That feeling of being like an ant made him not even think about it, and without the slightest bit of hesitation, he immediately spread his 2 legs and frantically escaped. If an ordinary person saw this, they would be scared half to death. It's too late to leave. Thunder Dragon, this is your food. I'll leave it to you, Shurtian said calmly as he looked at the lower half of the black-robed person's body that was running away. Roar! When the immemorial Thunder Dragon heard this, its eyes flashed with amethyst lightning. It was extremely excited. It extended its dragon claws and grabbed the upper half of the black-robed person's body. Whoosh! Just as the immemorial Thunder Dragon grabbed the upper half of the black-robed person's body and was about to stuff it into its mouth, a pitch-black battle sword suddenly came from afar. The sword slashed the dragon claws and collided with the fine dragon scales on the dragon claws. There was a terrifying electric light. A clear sword mark appeared on the dragon scales. It was cut open, and streams of amethyst dragon blood flowed out. Roar! The immemorial thunder dragon was furious. Its dragon eyes looked in the direction of the battle sword. It quickly pulled back its dragon claws and threw the upper half of the black-robed person's body into its mouth. It started to chew, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Looking around, mysterious people in black robes appeared one after another. The eyes under the cloak were cold and murderous. You killed 18. There were 17 black-robed people. The one who spoke was the third leader with the golden skull on his chest. He let out a hoarse and unpleasant voice and looked at Shirtion coldly, staring at Indra, who was standing on the celestial Empyrean's war chariot. His eyes narrowed as he felt a heavy pressure bearing down on him. It was like a subject meeting their emperor. One could only imagine how heavy the pressure was. 1 peak immemorial overlord, 10 late immemorial overlords, and 6 middle immemorial overlords. Including the early immemorial overlord, there are 18 immemorial overlords. Very good. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Sakura casually glanced at the black-robed men surrounding him, nodded his head, and talked leisurely. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 850. Those with tickets, please raise. His tone seemed to indicate that he had been waiting for them to come out. He was not surprised by their appearance at all. His eyes were calm. It was as if he had expected this. These words made the third leader, who was already extremely wary of Shirtion, narrow his eyes again. He did not attack immediately. Instead, he threw out a pitch-black compass that hung in the void. As soon as the compass appeared, the surrounding tens of thousands of miles seemed to be strangely bound and turned into another world. It was confined by a strange boundary restriction. Demon Emperor, did you know that we would come? The third leader asked hoarsely. Seeing that the compass had fused with the void, he seemed to have nothing to fear and was not afraid that Shirtion would escape. However, the murderous intent in his words was still incomparably strong. This emperor is the enemy of the entire world. The demon city intimidates everyone. If this emperor doesn't leave the city, I'm afraid no one would dare to kill me. If I didn't create an opportunity for you guys and personally find a battlefield, how would I be able to lure out you guys who are secretly spying on me? Sakura said calmly with a trace of coldness in his voice. Have the entire world as his enemy. He had known this for many years. If it were not for the Demon City Supreme artifact, which was a deterrent to the myriad worlds, many experts would have tried to assassinate him. Even so, he guessed that there must be countless eyes watching his every move in the vicinity of the Demon City. In his inner world, with the help of the dragon essence in the Celestial Emperor's chariot, he had broken through to the 6th level of the extreme Emperor indestructible body and condensed 6 indestructible divine rings. His physical body had become even stronger. His battle strength had also improved. In addition, he wanted to see the power of the Celestial Emperor's chariot and see how many people were lurking in the dark to kill him. He directly drove the chariot into the land of chaos. It was not unintentional. He wanted to use the land of chaos as a battlefield. Looking at the 17 black-robed men in front of him, Shirtion felt a chill in his heart. This was an organization of force with a goal. They wanted to kill him. TSK, what a guy. I wonder which power it is to be able to send out 18 ancient giants to kill you at once. He even used a supreme treasure to seal the void and confine the heavens and earth. It seems like this was premeditated. Dark let out a few strange cries. He looked at the black-robed men with interest. The uniformed skeletons clearly showed that they were all experts from the same faction. Today they came, but they can't leave. Shirtion's heart was cold. What? The third leader's eyes narrowed as he looked at Shirtion's face, as if trying to guess if he was telling the truth. However, in the blink of an eye, he sneered, "Humph! It doesn't matter if you really lured us out or not. Demon Emperor, you can only rely on the 1,000 Demon City. I'm not afraid to tell you, in the land of chaos, The entire void has been sealed by this seat's forbidden space leaf. No matter how high your cultivation is, you can forget about getting in touch with 1,000-demon city within a day. Don't even think about summoning the 1,000-demon city. Don't think this seat doesn't know that your battle strength is heaven-defying, comparable to the pinnacle of ancient giants. However, this time, 18 ancient giants are attacking at the same time. No matter how strong you are, you can forget about escaping. Today is the day you, Demon Emperor, die. From his words, it was obvious that he knew a lot about Tion. With a wave of his hand, he shouted, "Set up the formation!" Swoosh! In an instant, the 16 black-robed men began to move at the same time, rushing in different directions as if they were about to set up a powerful killing formation. Humph! I actually dared to come here. How can I not have a backup plan? If you want to set up a formation, you'd better play with my demonic beast experts first. Tion spat out sarcastically. With a wave of his sleeve, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, there was a flash of light in front of him, and several figures appeared out of thin air. You want to scheme against our Demon Emperor? You must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall. Ancient giants? Do you really think that our demon clan doesn't have any heavenly demons? Let's see if Grandpa Huang Quan comes out to play with you. Huang Quan stepped on the Huang Quan sacred river, and the water under his feet circled around his body like a long dragon. He sneered at the black-robed men who were moving quickly. With a thought, the sacred river quickly condensed into a Huang Quan sacred dragon. He stood on the head of the sacred dragon, and the sacred dragon opened its mouth and spat out a green mist towards a black-robed man nearby. Huang Quan of the Demon Clan, be careful. This is Huang Quan Sky Mist. Once it touches your body, it will corrode your flesh. Corrupted magic treasures. The third leader's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly reminded in a hoarse voice. The black-robed man who was facing the Huang Quan's sky mist also changed his expression. The Huang Quan sky mist came abnormally fast as lightning. It made him stop on the spot, and without thinking, a light flashed above his head, and a pitch-black umbrella appeared. The umbrella was covered with mysterious runes, and it emitted a gloomy aura. Whoosh! The umbrella opened on the spot. It began to spin. Strands of pitch-black chi hung down, enveloping his entire body in the umbrella. Tisk, tisk, from the umbrella, there was a strange sound, and sinister and terrifying skulls appeared one after another. The upper and lower jaws were constantly opening and closing, and they let out terrifying, strange cries. The skulls emitted a green light, and not only did they block the Huang Quan sky mist, they also began to devour it. Who are you people? How dare you assassinate the Demon Emperor? You really don't know your place. I'll let you have a taste of my power. Xie San Yang, who was dressed seductively, sneered. Her delicate body swayed slightly, and she strangely attacked one of the black-robed men. Behind her, a black light flashed. The black-robed man let out a shrill scream. His body, which was originally standing in mid-air, suddenly fell to the ground like a weight. He hugged his head with both hands and fell to the ground. Outside, the Heavenly Emperor's chariot, many figures appeared out of thin air. Other than Huang Quan and Xie San Yang, there was also the iron-blooded and murderous Qi gourd. He looked around coldly. Blissful Boy held a wine gourd in his hand, and he looked at the black-robed men with a faint smile. There was also the heavenly silkworm, Shueho, celestial peacock lady, Shura Kill, and the assassin emperor. You didn't leave the city alone. The third leader's pupils shrank violently, and he suddenly narrowed his eyes into a thin line. He glanced at the many experts that suddenly appeared, and his heart trembled. Nine ancient heavenly demons. The Demon Emperor actually brought 9 ancient heavenly demons with him. He didn't leave the city alone. It was just as he said, they came prepared. If I didn't act like I left the city alone, how could I lure you out? Tion said calmly without any complacency. Since Tion guessed that there would be people following him to assassinate him, he wouldn't be careless. Earlier in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, he had silently gathered all the ancient heavenly demons in the city and had them hide in his inner world. At the critical moment, they would appear in one fell swoop and kill his opponents. Furthermore, the Celestial Peacock Maiden's confidence was bolstered by the fact that the Celestial Peacock Emperor had left the land of exile and entered the dazzling treasure pagoda. All of their previous accumulations were unleashed, and they all broke through to the ancient heaven demon level. This greatly boosted the strength of the demon clan. 9 ancient heavenly demons. Good. I didn't expect the demon clan to have such a strong foundation. However, do you really think that you can stop our attack with just these 9? Dark Shadow, kill these 9 celestial demons for me. I want to destroy the demon clan's foundation. The third leader stood in midair and looked at Deshurtun, who was standing on the celestial emperor's chariot, and gave the order without hesitation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Immediately, the black-robed men who had given up on setting up the formation had strange heavenly devil blades appear in their hands. They flickered with cold, pitch-black light. Their bodies seemed to turn into nothingness as they moved like ghosts. In an instant, they attacked Tian Can, Huang Quan, and the others with unimaginable speed. Their bodies seemed to be able to shuttle through the void, switching between reality and illusion. We Demon Clan have been silent for too long. The myriad worlds have forgotten the strength of the Demon Clan in the ancient times. It seems that it's time to teach the myriad worlds a lesson. Gilo, let's have some fun with them. Gord Luzi was filled with an iron-blooded, murderous aura. Looking at the 16 black-robed men charging at him, not only was he not afraid, but he also emitted countless blood-colored, murderous auras. Back in the demon realm, he had been fighting with demon gods almost all the time. The murderous aura and unparalleled fighting spirit that he had cultivated had already reached an astonishing level. When he lifted his eyelids, the murderous aura that burst out could shatter the enemy's courage. In an instant, the black-robed men clashed violently with the demon clan experts. However, there seemed to be a tacit understanding. The black-robed men did not charge at the Celestial Emperor's chariot. Tian Can and the others did not attack the third leader. On the battlefield, Deshurtun and the third leader looked at each other from afar. Even if my subordinates are restrained by your demon clan experts, you still can't escape the fate of death. In the same realm, I am invincible, the third leader said in a hoarse voice. The third leader said in a hoarse voice. He paused for a moment before he suddenly said, "The honorable envoy once said that the combat power of a demon emperor is invincible among the ancient giants. However, I would like to exchange pointers with you and see if you can really block my divine ability." His hoarse voice revealed traces of extremely strong confidence and pride. Even if the demon emperor was invincible among the ancient giants, he still wanted to trample him under his feet. Honorable envoy? Deshurtun's eyes were deep as thoughts spun quickly in his mind. He said indifferently, "Let's see if you kill me, or I kill you." As he said that, his gaze fell on the 2 spears on the Celestial Emperor's chariot. With a move of his right hand, the tiger soul returned to its sheath, and he casually pulled out the Demon Slayer spear. The Celestial Emperor's chariot, the most precious treasure bestowed upon the demon clan by the myriad worlds. Judgment represents power, and slaying demons represents responsibility. Today, I will kill you with the Demon Slayer spear. Anyone who goes against, I is a demon. Deshurtun held the spear. He felt that what he held in his hand was not just a spear, but a heavy responsibility. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 851. The Heavenly Emperor's War Chariot was one of a kind in this world. Naturally, the War Chariot had the support of the Heavenly Emperor's aura. Deshurtun stood on the chariot, wearing a black emperor's robe and exuding a majestic aura. He held the ancient silver-white war spear in his hand. Indistinctly, there were countless silver-white runes flowing on the war spear. Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer. There seemed to be different faces flashing on the battle spear. Among these faces, there were the monster race, the human race, the beast race, the skeleton race, the ghost race, the Azura race, and so on. The faces of countless races and creatures in the universe could be clearly seen on the battle spear. Their mouths were filled with hatred and malevolence. They were chanting an ancient incantation. Demon Slayer, Demon Slayer. It was just that he kept repeating it over and over again, but it revealed a supreme conviction. This was the will of all living beings, an indestructible will. This was the duty and responsibility that all living beings had given to the owner of the Heavenly Emperor's war chariot. As soon as he held the Demon Slayer war spear in his hand, Tion felt that his entire body was connected to the Heavenly Emperor's war chariot, becoming one. From the war chariot, a mighty force surged into his body. On the war chariot, he suddenly understood the power and magic of the Heavenly Emperor's war chariot. It turned out that on the war chariot, no matter how much true force was consumed, it could be replenished in an instant. It was like the source of one's strength, supporting the Heavenly Emperor in battle. His strength would never run out. What was even more amazing was that even if one was severely injured on the war chariot, even if one's physical body was smashed, one could recover in an instant without any hidden injuries. Moreover, the most amazing thing was that in the war chariot, there were Heavenly Emperor's fighting souls formed by countless emperors. Once they were activated, the Heavenly Emperor's fighting souls would merge with one's body and one would become an ancient Heavenly Emperor. In a short period of time, Tion would possess the strength to fight against an unparalleled expert. However, this fusion would put a lot of pressure on one's physical body. Once the physical body could not withstand it, it would immediately collapse and damage the immortal body. Even the will that had merged with the fighting souls would be destroyed. Once that happened, one might fall from the immortal body. Therefore, although merging with the Heavenly Emperor's fighting soul was an unparalleled killing move, the conditions was equally frightening. According to the information transmitted from a war chariot, this kind of fusion was actually prepared for unparalleled powerhouses. Its true purpose was to allow the celestial emperors, who had reached the peerless master realm, to possess heaven-defying battle prowess that was unrivaled under the sovereign realm. This was the foundation of the celestial emperor war chariot, a top-grade connate numinous treasure. In the eyes of the three leaders, when Tion pulled out the Devil Slayer battle spear, his aura suddenly changed. His unmoving figure exuded the aura of an emperor. Vaguely, under the contrast of the celestial emperor's war chariot, he felt his battle prowess being suppressed. It was like a subject rebelling against the emperor. In terms of momentum, he was innately weaker. What a great celestial emperor chariot! What a great demon emperor Tion! The third chieftain narrowed his eyes, and after a short pause, he continued, "However, the celestial emperor's war chariot has always been sealed, and it needs to be unsealed with the blood of the demon god continent's unparalleled demon emperor. You won't be able to unleash the full power of this demon slayer war spear, at most half of its power. If you want to kill me, you might not be able to do so. The demon race. How can the demon race's bloodline be as noble as mine?" As soon as he finished speaking, a strange silver-white palace lantern appeared in his hand. The palace lantern was very strange, and its style was very similar to the 9 palace lanterns of heaven and earth. However, it didn't have the hidden, profound aura of the 9 palace lanterns. The flame in the palace lantern was a silver-white flame, burning fiercely and emitting a strange aura. Life lantern. Ming was originally watching leisurely, but when he saw the silver-white palace lantern, his dragon eyes violently shrank, and he cried out in shock, "Lunatic D, be careful. That's a life lantern. This person must be from the Soul Clan, the most bizarre soul clan in the legends. Their life lantern technique is extremely bizarre, and even the peerless masters are wary of it. Once it's ignited, it won't stop until one of them is dead. Once the life lantern is ignited and extinguished, Lunatic D, your life will also be extinguished. That's a true death, and not a single soul mark will remain. This is the most bizarre Tao of the soul." As he screamed, He was about to jump out of the Saint River of Huangquan. "You're from the Soul Clan?" Di Shirtian was shocked, but he didn't show any signs of weakness on his face. He just stared coldly at the third leader and said, "The Soul Clan actually dares to interfere with the matters of the demon race. Do you Soul Clan want to die?" Not only did he not show any signs of weakness, but he also acted like an emperor berating his subjects. That supreme emperor's aura rolled over like a tide. Bang, bang, bang. The third leader only felt that the pressure coming at him was unstoppable, and his whole body involuntarily took 3 steps back. His aura suddenly weakened. Umph. Even if you're a heavenly emperor, your soul will be under my control. Life Lantern, rise. The third leader seemed to be angry from embarrassment, and he spat out a sentence in a hoarse voice. It was unknown what kind of strange seal he made in his hand, which landed on the silver life lamp. Suddenly, strange ripples swept towards Indra silently like a tide. Whoosh! Di Shirtian only felt his spirit shudder, and when he looked down, a silver life lantern had strangely appeared in his chest. The life lantern was filled with purple lamp oil, and in the palace lantern, the silver-white lamp's heart suddenly burned. The light was extremely strong, and the moment it was lit, the lamp oil in the life lantern was rapidly absorbed by the lamp's heart, turning into flame, burning, and quickly falling. At the same time, Di Shirtian's spirit felt a terrible stabbing pain, like a needle on his back, and a strong sense of danger constantly stimulated his mind. This was an omen from his life. Not good. He's already lit your life lantern, and the oil in the lamp is your soul. Once the oil is completely burned out, the life lantern extinguishes, and that's when you lunatic D will die. Quickly kill this shameful guy. As long as you kill the person who used the life lantern technique, the life lantern will extinguish itself, and when it does, as long as there's oil left in the lamp, you won't die. You must be quick, kill this soul race. Even Dark's dragon scales seemed to be crazily standing up. It issued a terrible warning, and in an instant, Di Shirtian's chest, as if a ball of fire had been completely ignited. Anger like never before. My fate, even the river of fate can't control it, but my life lantern was lit and my soul was burned. How can my soul be blasphemed? This was an action that touched Di Shirtian's nerves. Soul, how dare you blaspheme my soul? A monstrous anger surged into his mind like a tide. At this moment, even the book of Shocking the World could not stop this anger, and only absorbed it, keeping his mind in a calm state. Kill! Di Shirtian's mind moved, and the immemorial thunder dragon roared, pulling the chariot fiercely, and charged towards the 3 leaders. This charge was like the wrath of the celestial emperor pouring down. Demon Slayer, Demon Slayer. The silver-white Demon Slayer war spear followed the celestial emperor's chariot's momentum and blasted towards the 3 leaders. This spear did not seem to be fast, and one could clearly see the trajectory of the spear, but in the war spear there were countless demon slayers, like the law of the heavens. Wherever the war spear pointed, if it said you were a demon, you were a demon. If you were a demon, you should be killed. This spear carried the supreme demon slayer will of all living beings in the universe, and that undying faith poured into the war spear as it blasted towards the 3 leaders. In the eyes of the 3 leaders, it was as if what he was facing was not a war spear, but the will of countless ancient living beings that had fallen at the hands of the demon gods. Countless living beings, countless experts gathered together to form a tide of demon slayers. In front of this tide, if you were a demon, you should be killed. In that instant, the 3rd leader felt his mind waver. It was as if his beliefs and willpower were about to crumble on the spot. He was greatly shocked. Without thinking, he waved the silver life lamp in his hand. Countless silver-white lights spread out like a tide, completely enveloping his entire body. It was incomparably hot, as if he was a silver-white sun. Rumble! The Demon Slayer war spear blasted directly on the light, but the light barrier was not penetrated at all. Instead, it trembled violently like cotton and gave off a strange elasticity. Even though it was shaking violently, And even though the war spear had penetrated dozens of feet into the light barrier, there was still an endless stream of light surging towards the war spear like a tide, exuding a huge potential, trying to repel the war spear inch by inch. Roar! The immemorial thunder dragon roared and exerted force, pulling the war chariot. A huge impact force was reflected from the Celestial Emperor's war chariot, landing on the war spear and turning into a powerful impact force. It was like a charging cavalry that could explode with 200% of its strength. Bang! The Demon Slayer battle spear instantly unleashed an ancient god force. In addition to D. Shirtian's vast Emperor True force, the Demon Slayer battle spear's explosive god force was unstoppable. In an instant, the Demon Slayer battle spear unleashed a shocking amount of god force. Under the Demon Slayer battle spear, the Demon Slayer battle spear was instantly pierced through. Crack! The moment the spear pierced through, a small crack could be clearly seen on the silver life lamp. As for the third leader, it was as if he was struck by lightning, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. A light flashed above his head, and a pitch-black umbrella appeared. The umbrella opened, and countless skulls and demonic shadows emerged from the umbrella. Dense demonic chi gushed out. Great Luo demonic umbrella. Open the umbrella and destroy the world. A hoarse voice came out from the third leader's mouth. Instantly, the umbrella began to spin, and countless skulls shot out from the umbrella. They screeched and bit down, and even a piece of space was bitten off. They gathered together, condensing into a skull that was thousands of feet long, shining with a metallic demonic brilliance. You dare to light Eye's life lamp. You're really courting death. To be continued. If you want to know the rest, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 852. Roar. The immemorial thunder dragon's eyes were filled with anger. How dare you light my master's life lamp? Aren't you courting death? It didn't even think about it. As it pulled the chariot, it stretched out its dragon claw and directly grabbed the huge skeleton that was whizzing over. Countless bolts of purple lightning carried a domineering heavenly might. Against evil, they had a shocking destructive power. Rumble. Countless purple divine thunders suddenly enveloped half of the void, forming a terrifying thunder region. As a primordial thunder dragon, the power of thunder it possessed could be called the primordial divine thunder. Its destructive power was second to none among the divine thunders. In an instant, the skull in the dragon's claw struggled violently, but countless bolts of lightning surged over. Countless hideous cracks appeared on the skull on the spot, and it was completely crushed with a loud bang, turning into countless pieces. Ultimate Emperor Immortal Body. His flesh and blood spun rapidly, and numerous immortal divine rings were quickly formed from his flesh and blood. They revolved around his body and spun. Sorrow, joy, anger, fear, and other desires instantly spread out like a tide, enveloping the third chief. The power of desire. What kind of power is this? Even my concentration pearl can't block it. The third chief's body shook violently, and he suddenly let out a scream. His voice was filled with fear, and his eyes seemed to spit out spring water. He had the concentration pearl, which could calm his spiritual soul and prevent it from being attacked by external demons. However, under the power of desire, he still couldn't completely block it and was attacked on the spot. His combat strength dropped by more than 30% in an instant. D. Shirtian's power of desire was the purest form of immortal obsession. With the support of his inner world, the power of desire was as vast as the sea. As long as his divine spirit was not destroyed, large amounts of immortal obsession would rush into his body at every moment. This immortal obsession was not something that a mere concentration pearl could block. Demon Slayer. D. Shirtian spat out these two words coldly, and the Demon Slayer battle spear in his hand struck out again. Suddenly, 6 immortal divine rings appeared on the battle spear. and they spun continuously, emitting an endless amount of power, causing the battle spear to condense 6 different types of power of desire. Dharma idol augmentation. With a jerk of his body, 66 Dharma idols gushed out from his body. Boundless Dharma idols gushed into the demon slayer battle spear like a tidal wave. On the spot, the countless silver-white patterns on the devil slayer battle spear began to circulate as if they had a life of their own. The surrounding heaven and earth seemed to be connected to the entire world. This spear had already surpassed the limits of an ancient powerhouse. Dharma form, celestial emperor chariot, extreme emperor indestructible body, and many other powers were all infused into the battle spear. With the spear smashing down, the 3 leaders couldn't even resist. He felt as if he was a disobedient subject who was being judged by the emperor. His heart was invaded by boundless fear. Quick, 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 hurry up and burn out the life lantern. The 3rd leader screamed in his heart. In Di Shirtian's life lamp, 2/3 of the oil had been burned away. Pucci. However, the silver-white devil slayer battle spear suddenly pierced through the void and smashed into the 3rd leader's chest. The spear was incomparably sharp and pierced through the 3rd leader's body. The tip of the spear poked out of the 3rd leader's back. With a loud bang, the tyrannical power contained in the battle spear instantly minced his body into pieces, causing him to explode with a loud bang. Countless pieces of flesh and blood shot out in all directions. Whoosh! An illusory soul body suddenly emerged from the destroyed body, and with a terrifying speed, it quickly fled backwards. The life lantern hasn't been extinguished. This soul isn't dead yet. Quick, don't let him escape. If he doesn't die, you'll die, lunatic D. Hurry up and destroy that soul. You want to leave? Stay here for I. Di Shirtian's heart was cold. He had long known that every ancient giant had a strong vitality. Almost every one of them was extremely difficult to kill. If they didn't have an immortal body, then they had an immortal primordial spirit. Even if a trace of them escaped, they could be reborn again. They were like cockroaches that couldn't be killed. The purple-gold divine pattern between his brows wriggled quickly and opened to both sides. A cold purple gold eye was revealed. Divine punishment, divine eye, divine punishment. Whoosh! A purple gold divine light suddenly shot out of the divine eye. It was so bright that it seemed to have substance. As soon as the divine light appeared, it exuded a godly aura that transcended the boundaries of space and time. Almost instantly, it caught up with the soul that was as fast as lightning. The divine light swept across and brushed against the soul. Great Luo demon umbrella. The 3rd leader shouted, and the umbrella covered him like a canopy, protecting him under the umbrella. Whoosh! The divine light of divine punishment swept across and brushed past the great Luo demon umbrella. On the spot, the demonic splendor of the umbrella dimmed and its grade dropped. Swish, swish, swish. Under Di Shirtian's control, the divine light of divine punishment was as easy as waving his arm. He had reached the realm of an ancient heavenly demon. His control of the divine punishment divine, I was gradually improving. There were no more restrictions like before. After the divine light brushed past the umbrella, it immediately turned back and brushed over again. It kept brushing and brushing, and in the blink of an eye, it had repeated dozens of times. Crack! The umbrella was brushed into a pile of scrap metal. It shattered into pieces. Divine punishment, divine light. How can you have the divine punishment, divine light of the heavenly punishment clan? My soul. The 3rd leader let out an ear-piercing scream. He finally saw clearly that this was the heavenly punishment, divine light of the heavenly punishment clan. The fear in his heart surged like a tide. The divine light brushed past his soul. At the same time, he felt that his deep soul comprehension, understanding of the heavenly Tao, and his own realm were all strangely erased. It was as if he had never comprehended it. His cultivation and dharmic power were all wiped out. No! A terrified scream shot up into the sky. The purple gold divine light shot up into the sky, shaking the stars and shaking the void. It was as if the heavens had sent down divine punishment, as if the emperor had issued a judgment and judgment. It brushed past his soul, and in the blink of an eye, it had repeated hundreds of times. Each time, it took away a large amount of heavenly Tao, comprehension, and realm. He almost fell from the realm of an ancient giant. Roar! A golden stream of light, accompanied by a domineering tiger's roar, instantly broke through the air. It fiercely stabbed into his soul. He flew several thousand feet forward and stabbed into a hill. Then he stared at the top of the hill. The domineering tiger soul saber was stabbed into it. An extremely strong devouring force was emitted from the tiger soul green bead. It enveloped the entire soul and quickly swallowed it into the saber. Soul-devouring pearl. How can you have the soul-devouring pearl? How can you find the soul-devouring stone? The 10,000 bones soul-devouring tree was destroyed by my soul clan in the ancient times. This is impossible. With a shrill scream, his soul was pulled into the green bead at a speed visible to the naked eye. Esteemed envoy, save me. Only a mournful howl echoed in the void. The third leader was killed on the spot. Whoosh! This damn life lamp has finally been extinguished. Fortunately, it was just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. If he had escaped, the one who would have died would have been you, Lunatic D. This life lamp divine power is too terrifying. The Soul Clan is really a bunch of lunatics. When Nether saw that his soul was destroyed, he stretched out his dragon claw and wiped his head as if he was wiping off cold sweat. He felt a lingering fear. This life lamp technique was really too strange and heaven-defying. It could directly ignite the enemy's life lamp, but what it burned was the enemy's soul. Once it was ignited, it was almost impossible to extinguish it. This soul clan was also extremely strange and difficult to kill. Once their life lamp was lit, the probability of death was higher than 90%. Just now, in just 3 or 4 more breaths, the life lamp would have been extinguished. It was obvious that Tion was on the verge of death. He was walking a tightrope on a cliff. His life was hanging by a thread. The Soul Clan is indeed terrifying. Tion took a deep breath and calmed his mind. Just now, he only felt that a sharp sword would fall from the top of his head at any time. That feeling was enough to make him collapse. He raised his eyes and looked around. He saw that the 5-color divine light behind the peacock goddess swept out in a fan shape. Wherever it passed, the void distorted. Everything was brushed into the divine light. Several black-robed figures at the early stage of the eternal realm were swept into the 5-color divine light on the spot. The gourd was even more ferocious. The iron blood gourd in his hand spewed out countless blood-colored murderous weapons that cut through the void. Wherever it passed, the void was cut into pieces. In the blink of an eye, a mid-stage eternal realm powerhouse was crushed into powder. Even his flesh and blood were not spared. They were all swept into the gourd and refined with the boundless iron blood, murderous aura. The blood-devouring power was unparalleled. The battle spear had already pierced through a black-robed figure. The Huang Quan and the Sky Silkworm each displayed their abilities. The Huang Quan Saint River and the Yinyang Heavenly Bridge were all supreme treasures. Several eternal realm powerhouses were killed on the spot and swept into the Huang Quan. The Assassin Emperor moved like a ghost. The Shadow Clan's assassination technique directly pierced through the divine soul. The Azura-killing, heaven-slashing sword art had already reached the peak. With a swing of the sword, a terrifying sword mark was left in the void. Xie Sanyang also had an ultimate technique, poisonous hitching horse stake. It was extremely vicious and powerful. With her rich experience, she killed an expert in the blink of an eye. The Child of Bliss had a mouth full of lotus flowers. With just a word, he made a black-robed figure go crazy on the spot and sent into paradise. Almost at the same time that Tion killed the 3 leaders, the battle in the surroundings also came to an end. The 18 invaders were all killed. It seemed that other than the 3 leaders, the other 17 only had the combat strength of an eternal realm powerhouse. They didn't have a realm that was comparable to their own combat strength. It was as if they had forcefully increased their strength. Your Majesty, the invaders have all been killed. The sky silkworm, Huang Quan, and the others returned to the Heavenly Emperor war chariot and reported respectfully. Monster Emperor, what kind of power do you think these people are? They actually wanted to kill you. The gourd coldly asked with a murderous expression. Looking at the corpses on the ground, they realized that there wasn't only one race. Other than the soul race that Di Shirtian killed, there were also the skeleton race, ghost race, winged race, beast race, and many others. It was as if they were all gathered together. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 853. Yes, the myriad realms don't want us, the Yao clan, to rise again. The spirit kin, the beast kin, the skeleton clan. So many races participated in this. They used treasures to seal off the void, stop the Yao clan, and even seal off this void. If the Yao Emperor hadn't been prepared, there would definitely be people who wouldn't be at ease and brought us out. Perhaps these despicable people would have succeeded. Blissful Child was dressed like a child. At this moment, he couldn't help but pout. He looked at the black-robed people on the ground with a trace of anger. If they weren't here and the Yao Emperor was the only one here, they would have been trapped by the black-robed people formation. If the Spirikin used the life lantern to trap them, they wouldn't have been able to escape. It had to be said that in his heart, he already saw Di Shirtian as the hope for the Yao clan to rise again. He was the indelible spiritual sustenance in the hearts of the Yao clan. He was even a god. They're just a bunch of fake giants with no cultivation base. Under my poisonous hitching post, they're just clowns. Xie Sanyang chuckled. She looked at the corpses on the ground with disdain. Your Majesty, in your opinion, where did these people come from? They're wearing the same uniform. They're definitely not ordinary people, Schwescher said in a deep voice with a sharp gaze. Indra carefully swept his gaze over the numerous black-robed men and seemed to have understood something in his heart. He raised his head to look at the void and casually grabbed at the void. The compass that had merged into the void was suddenly pulled out of thin air and landed in his hand. He sized up the compass. On the compass, there were traces of mysterious sealing force and countless mysterious demonic runes that appeared perfectly. His expression was slightly serious as he said, "What a demon god continent." Demon god continent? After hearing that, the celestial peacock maiden couldn't help but ponder. She muttered, "Your Majesty, you mean that these people are the claws of the demon god continent?" When she said that, the pupils of the gourd, Blissful Child, and the others couldn't help but violently contract. Thinking back to when they fought with the black-robed people, they did feel a strange demonic aura. It vaguely resembled the demonic arts of the demon god continent. When they moved, they were like ghosts. These people are all from 100 primordial clans of our origin world. If it's really as your Majesty guessed, doesn't that mean that the demon god continent has already begun to secretly infiltrate the myriad realms? Celestial Silkworm's white eyebrows constantly trembling. His face faintly. If this guess was true, the demon god continent's origin world, the demon god continent's origin world. Sakra's eyes flashed with wisps of brilliance, which was exceptionally resplendent. He said solemnly, "Do you all remember that when we used Demon City to break through the barrier between heaven and earth in the land of exile, we once saw 2 space tunnels? One leads to the demon god continent, while the other leads to the origin world. Your Majesty, you mean that those demon gods in the demon god continent didn't return to the demon god continent after breaking the barrier. Instead, they took the opportunity to enter the myriad realms and eventually lay low. They secretly infiltrated the various clans and factions and secretly supported them." Huang Quan was secretly shocked. He instantly understood. Before the annihilation tide came, the passage between the origin world and the demon god continent hadn't been open at all. The only way to travel between the 2 continents was through the demon god continent. Only then could they silently infiltrate the myriad realms and secretly develop their forces. Then, They would lure a large number of weak-willed people to join the demonic path. When they thought of this possibility, the gourd celestial silkworm and the others' expressions immediately turned ugly. Everyone knew that if this was really the case, then once the annihilation tide was over and the two continents were at war again, the great calamity would begin. These hidden demon gods would cooperate with each other from the inside and outside, and it would be a terrible disaster for the myriad worlds. Oof. Why do you care so much? Xie Sanyang gritted her teeth and said, back in the day, the demon race sacrificed our lives to fight the demon gods for the myriad realms and the origin world. Many of our demon race disciples died, but in the end, we were turned against by the human race. We were oppressed by the myriad realms and ended up killing demons for their cores, flaying their skins, and forging their bones. Who has ever stood up for the demon race? In my opinion, we don't care about the demon race's invasion. As long as they don't provoke the demon race, we have nothing to worry about even if the human race and the 100 ancient clans all perish. The human race isn't the most noble race in the world. Since they want to trample on the demon race, then it's their turn to face the great calamity of the demon gods. In her eyes, there was undisguised hatred. What happened in the ancient times was an indelible hatred in the hearts of all the demon race. Just like what Di Shitian said when he faced Taishang Wang Qing, the heroic spirits of the demon race's ancestors were not far away. Who would dare to forget such a monstrous blood feud? That's right. We only sweep the snow in front of our own door. Why should we care about the frost on the roof of others? Why should the demon race care about the injustice of the human race? The human race is the main character of the world. They will face the great calamity. If they can, it's their fortune. If they can't, it's none of our business. Blissful Boy gulped down a mouthful of spiritual wine and shouted strangely. The demon race present had no intention of objecting at all. What happened in the ancient times had chilled the demon race's hearts. Di Shitian heard this and did not comment. He glanced around and said, although these black-robed men have perished, they still have many treasures on them. Distribute them among yourselves. I will enter the fire domain to look for the primordial flame dragon. The rest of you will split into groups of 3 and go to the other major regions to look for the other primordial 9 dragons. After you find them, use the all-encompassing net that Sky Silkworm and Huang Quan specially refined. If you can defeat them, fight them. If you can't, you can also trap them temporarily. Yes, Demon Emperor, Sky Silkworm, Huang Quan, and the others immediately responded respectfully. Now, Di Shitian's every word and action naturally exuded a kind of supreme dignity. It made people have no choice but to submit to him. In the blink of an eye, the demon race took all the treasures on the black-robed men. According to the arrangement, they split into 3 groups and immediately rushed in different directions. Among them, Gourd Boy, Blissful Boy, and Xie Sanyang were in one group. Peacock Goddess, Shura Sha, and Shuesha were in another group. Sky Silkworm, Huang Quan, and Assassin Emperor were in another group. They went their separate ways. According to the primordial thunder dragon, the primordial 9 dragons were born in the major regions of the chaotic lands. However, the primordial 9 dragons all had extremely powerful means. Although their ferocious nature was dominant, their combat strength was absolutely heaven-defying. This is the soul race's life lamp. After the demon race left, Di Shitian held the silver life lamp in his hand and carefully examined it. On the life lamp, there were strange runes that contained the charm of the soul. It was extremely strange. Moreover, the life lamp had been extinguished. There seemed to be strange spiritual words in the life lamp. He thought to himself, when I return to the demon city, I'll give the life lamp to the emperor and devour it. Who knows, I might be able to obtain the soul race's spiritual superpower. The life lamp technique. With that thought, he sent the life lamp into his inner world. Enter the fire domain. Roar. The primordial thunder dragon opened its mouth and swallowed the surrounding corpses into its stomach. It let out an excited dragon roar, and purple lightning clouds appeared below it. Stepping on the lightning clouds, it pulled the celestial emperor's war chariot and quickly charged into the sea of fire. After the celestial emperor's war chariot left, without any warning, a simple and unadorned pitch-black devil gate appeared out of nowhere. Outside the demon gate, Shweini, who was wearing a blood-red robe and had blood-red hair, appeared together with the cold-looking Seven Knights demon Ancestor. However, when the Seven Knights demon Ancestor faced Shweini, there was a hint of respect in his expression. Lord Blood God, from the test just now, what do you think of the Demon King? The Seven Knights demon Ancestor scanned the battlefield with a solemn expression. When Shweini heard this, he smiled evilly and revealed a meaningful expression. He smiled and said, "Speaking of which, this god really admires the Demon King. Back in the day, the Demon Clan was only a few big cats and kittens. However, under his management, not only did he create a supreme artifact like the Demon City, but he also laid the foundation for the Demon Clan's inheritance. It also allowed the Demon Clan to prosper. Now, there were already so many ancient heavenly demon realm experts in the Demon Clan. D. Shirtion has already become a force to be reckoned with. The rise of the demon race will be unstoppable. However, the human race and the demon race are almost irreconcilable. If we can sow discord between the two races, we might be able to weaken the strength of the source world." His eyes flashed, and there seemed to be many schemes flashing in his mind. Moreover, looking at the situation, the previous 18 black-robed men were simply a means for them to test the waters. They did not even care if they were alive or dead. The Seven Knights demon Ancestor nodded and said, "The Sky Demon Ancestor's plan is to let us enter the source world through the land of exile and slowly infiltrate the major forces and pay attention to the development of the source world. The demon race and the human race are irreconcilable. If we want to sow discord, it should not be difficult with our current strength. However, Chi has already inquired that Sir Blood Demon God has not perished and is being suppressed somewhere. You want to save that old fellow blood demon?" When Shweini heard this, his eyes narrowed. There was something strange in his tone. "I know where that old fellow blood demon is. I heard that he's being suppressed by the Qin family." Shweini rubbed his chin and smiled evilly. "It is said that the Qin family's current heavenly lady, Katomi, has an ambiguous relationship with the Demon King. If we capture her, we might be able to reap some unexpected rewards." After a short conversation, the ancient demon gate disappeared mysteriously, just like how it appeared. Rumble. The immemorial thunder dragon pulled the celestial emperor's war chariot and appeared in front of the boundless fire domain in the blink of an eye. In the fire domain, countless tyrannical flames crazily interweaved together, continuously forming a destructive firestorm. Every wisp of flame was abnormally violent, as if it wanted to burn everything in the world to ashes. Inside, one could clearly see strange, flaming, ferocious beasts glaring fiercely. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support legal reading. Chapter 854. These were ferocious beasts that had been nurtured in the endless flames. Each of them had great control over the flames and could walk freely in the flames. There were fire bulls, fire wolves, and so on. Their bodies were covered in blazing flames, and their eyes were filled with ferocious light. Each of them was extremely irritable. Once they entered, they would definitely be attacked by these ferocious beasts. The immemorial thunder dragon looked down at the fire domain. There was a look of disdain in the dragon's huge eyes. These ferocious beasts were like ants to him. Who was he? He was one of the immemorial 9 dragons, one of the top existences in the land of chaos. Any ferocious beast would tremble in fear in front of him. Roar! A domineering dragon roar came out of his mouth. At the same time, the vast dragon body shook violently, and the primordial and desolate aura of the immemorial 9 dragons flooded the fire domain like a tide. Roar! When the ancient thunder dragon showed its might, it was extremely domineering, especially when it came to fierce beasts. It had a suppression that came from the bloodline and soul. When the fierce beasts in the fire domain heard this, their originally fierce eyes were immediately replaced by fear. Without even thinking, they all trembled and quickly fled into the distance. Almost instantly, a large number of ferocious beasts in the fire domain disappeared. TSK, in the land of chaos, with the immemorial thunder dragon pulling the carriage, is simply unstoppable. Ordinary ferocious beasts would not dare to block the aura of the immemorial 9 dragons and would run away immediately. However, it is strange that the fire domain is the territory of the immemorial flame dragon. Why is there no movement after hearing the roar of the immemorial thunder dragon? Ming saw the scene in the fire domain and was amazed. He could not help but let out a puzzled cry. Di Shirtian was also puzzled and asked the immemorial thunder dragon directly. The immemorial thunder dragon said in a muffled voice, "Your Majesty, I don't know. I only remember that old flame suddenly disappeared a few thousand years ago. He didn't even participate in the immemorial 9 dragons hunt that occurs once every 3,000 years. He might not be here anymore. I did not feel old flame's aura in the fire domain." The 9 primordial dragons shared the same origin, and it was not wrong to say that they were siblings. Naturally, there would be a connection between them, and they would be able to sense each other's presence. However, at this moment, there was no aura of the ancient flame dragon in this fire domain. These words made Di Shirtian frown slightly as he thought to himself, "The primordial flame dragon is not here?" Logically speaking, the primordial 9 dragons would not easily leave their birthplace. Could it be that there is something strange about this fiery domain? Lunatic D, I'm afraid there's something strange about this fire domain, Ming added, smelling something unusual. Up the blazing mountain, Di Shirtian said to the ancient thunder dragon. His face naturally revealed traces of determination. After cultivating to his current level, merely relying on closed-door cultivation would only make him fall behind. Only by unceasingly tempering himself, unceasingly fighting, and not just searching for fortuitous encounters outside would he be able to reap benefits. The stranger this fire domain was, the more he wanted to find out. Lightning and fire were inseparable. The ancient thunder dragon did not dislike the various flames in the fiery domain at all. Instead, it was like a fish in water, pulling the celestial emperor's chariot towards the blazing mountain at the center of the fiery domain. The celestial emperor's chariot was even more extraordinary, a top-grade, innate spiritual treasure. The surrounding flames could not get close to the chariot at all. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the blazing mountain. Standing on the celestial emperor's chariot, Di Shirtian raised his head and looked ahead. Hiss, what a tall, blazing mountain. I'm afraid it's no less than 10,000 jong tall. This mountain has the primordial aura and is incomparably tough. Not only is it difficult to destroy, but it can also spew out endless flames. I'm afraid it's one of the origins of the Bedlam lands. What pure flames! Lunatic D, if you can summon the demon city and absorb the flames here, it will greatly benefit the fire talisman in the Emperor's Jade Archive. Dark said loudly. Although the Great Path talisman in the Emperor's Jade Archive had been perfected, it was only a preliminary step. It could still absorb the various Great Path precepts from the outside world to strengthen the Great Path talisman, making the Great Path talisman even more perfect and powerful. Starting from the foot of the blazing mountain, a large number of flames appeared and circled around. There were Samadhi True Fire, Earth Core Flame, Sea Core Flame, and so on. The higher one went, the stronger the flames grade in power. Up the mountain, rumble. On the celestial emperor's chariot, there was a celestial emperor's imperial canopy. 7-colored divine light flowed on the canopy, making it look noble and magnificent. Although it was a chariot, it was still an emperor's chariot. The celestial emperor's imperial canopy alone had amazing defensive power. The immemorial thunder dragon roared as it rushed up the flaming mountain. It opened its mouth and swallowed the flames along the way. It was like a delicacy. Caw! caw, caw, caw. When they were halfway up the mountain, a strange and unpleasant caw came from above. It sounded exactly like a crow. It was extremely ear-piercing and irritating. This caw could be a fire crow, Ming said in surprise, as soon as he finished speaking. In an instant, many golden fire crows appeared out of nowhere on the mountain of flames. Each of them was dozens of feet tall. The golden feathers on their bodies emitted blazing flames. Not only were they not ugly, but they had a noble charm. They rushed out. At first glance, there were millions of fire crows rushing down from the top of the mountain. They gathered together and formed a huge golden cloud of fire that rushed toward him. Each of them had a powerful aura that was not inferior to an ancient great demon. Among them, the most powerful ones were comparable to ancient great demon sages. They rushed over like a sea of fire. The blazing flames almost burned the heaven and earth. The target of these fire crows was Di Shutian's celestial emperor's chariot. They seemed to be alarmed by the ancient thunder dragon. There was a fierce look in their sharp eyes. Oh no, the flame on these fire crows is the grandson, primordial flame. Could it be that they have the bloodline of the three-legged golden crow? Ming exclaimed. Millions of fire crows rushed over. If one did not have a treasure to protect himself, he would be burned to ashes by the grandson, primordial flame. This flame was too overbearing. Caw, caw. The unpleasant caw was heard again. The speed of the fire crows was abnormally fast. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in front of the celestial emperor's war chariot. They seemed to want to stop the Sakura from going further up the mountain. The fire crows flapped their wings. Suddenly, golden feathers fell from their bodies. They shot towards the celestial emperor's chariot like sharp swords. Each feather contained a shocking grandson, primordial flame. Wherever they passed, the flames in the air were burned to ashes. It was extremely sharp. Roar! When the ancient thunder dragon saw this, his eyes were filled with anger. Even his dragon whiskers were blown up. In this chaotic place, there were ferocious beasts that dared to attack him. This was definitely a provocation. With the help of the celestial emperor's chariot, his intelligence had increased. To actually be provoked in front of his master, Sakura, he definitely didn't have any face in his heart. Without thinking, he opened his mouth and let out a dragon roar. The purple sound waves spread out in all directions. At the same time, it was accompanied by streaks of purple, primordial purple thunder. The purple thunder was as dense as rain, and each of them had the destructive power of an ancient demon saint's full power attack. Almost instantly, a large number of feathers were shrouded in lightning. They bombarded the feathers and clashed violently with the grandson, primordial flame. But how could the fire crows be compared to the ancient thunder dragon? Their feathers were all knocked down. However, the fire crows were incomparably ferocious. They weren't afraid of the ancient thunder dragon's aura at all. They extended their golden claws and swooped down from the sky, ruthlessly clawing at the ancient thunder dragon. It looked like they wanted to tear off a large chunk of the dragon's flesh. Damn! At this moment, a sparkling and translucent ancient bell appeared above Di Shutian's head. The ancient bell shook and let out a loud chime. The chime of the bell contained the supreme concept of the heaven's reincarnation. In an instant, the void within a radius of 10,000 feet was distorted. The sound of the heaven's reincarnation pierced into everyone's ears. It rushed into the minds of the fire crows. The eyes of the fire crows became dazed. It was as if their minds had been confused. They had fallen into a terrifying illusion. Millions of fire crows were strangely confused. They were disoriented in midair. They are fire crows with the bloodline of the three-legged golden crow. They are indeed good stuff. My heaven's reincarnation bell is about to be perfected. These fire crows can be integrated into my ancient bell. Heaven's reincarnation, seal the fire crows for I. Di Shutian pointed at the heaven's reincarnation bell above his head. Instantly, the ancient bell flew into the air and appeared above the flock of fire crows. The ancient bell shook and instantly grew bigger. It turned into a giant bell that was 30,000 feet tall. At the mouth of the bell, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared. Countless strange scenes appeared in the whirlpool. It was as if the heaven's reincarnation bell was spinning and twisting in the whirlpool. It emitted a powerful suction force. It swept in all directions. The fire crows that had their minds invaded by the heaven's reincarnation bell were unable to resist at all. They were instantly sucked into the whirlpool. With D. Sure Tion's current cultivation, activating this natural life spirit treasure was simply activating its power to the extreme. In the blink of an eye, a total of 3 million fire crows were swallowed by the ancient bell. Merge! D. Sure Tion struck a hand seal on the ancient bell. Immediately, the surface of the heaven's reincarnation bell started to flow strangely. In an area without any pictures, a strange relief picture scroll was formed. In the picture scroll, there was a sea of fire. In the sea of fire, millions of fire crows were flying around. The golden grand sun primordial flame shone with a dazzling divine light. It was lifelike, as if it had grown out of the ancient bell. The heaven's reincarnation bell has another attack. If they are nurtured well, these fire crows may be able to continue to evolve. Crazy D, you have found a treasure. Dark did not hide anything and shouted excitedly. Keep going up. D. Sure Tion instructed the primordial thunder dragon. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 855. After sealing the fire crows in the bell of heaven's samsara, D. Sure Tion could clearly feel that the ancient bell's grade and power had increased significantly. The ancient bell was a middle-grade innate spiritual treasure when it was successfully forged. Then, it was infused with the blood essence of the bronze giant, which gave birth to the bronze giant warriors and the 3 gourds. Now, it was infused with another 1,000,000 fire crows. In an instant, the innate divine restriction in the ancient bell was greatly improved. It showed signs of evolving into an upper-grade, innate spiritual treasure. The heavens samsara contained the heavens. Once it was infused, it would become one with the ancient bell, and there would be no possibility of separation. The more powerful the treasures and creatures that were infused, the more beneficial it would be for the ancient bell's evolution. Looking at the surface of the ancient bell, there were 3 relief scrolls. The first one was an illusory gourd vine with 3 small gourds swaying in the wind. The second one was 1,200 bronze giants with the fighting power of the ancient demon sages. The third one was 1,000,000 extraordinary fire crows in the sea of fire. These relief carvings naturally made the ancient bell exude a kind of vast and solemn pressure. Rumble. The celestial emperor's war chariot continued charging toward the top of the flaming mountain. Caw! Caw! Moreover, waves of domineering aura rose one after another, as if a sleeping god had suddenly awakened. It was as if small golden suns had suddenly appeared on the flaming mountains that filled the sky. Each of the little suns exuded a powerful aura and a dangerous aura. Oh my god, they're fire crows. Each of these fire crows has the combat power of an ancient demonic saint. Be careful, lunatic D. This flaming mountain is indeed not simple. Dark clicked his tongue. Inside the small suns that suddenly appeared, he could see clearly that they weren't suns at all. They were golden fire crows that were hundreds of feet long. The true sun flame emitted from their bodies covered their bodies and emitted scorching heat. Even in the celestial emperor's war chariot, one could feel the heat wave coming toward them. There were more than 1,000 of these fire crows. He soared into the air and glared fiercely at D. Sure Tion. Croak! With a shrill caw, a small golden sun turned into a streak of light and fiercely slammed into the ancient thunder dragon. With a bang, the huge fire crow self-detonated without hesitation. The eruption of solar primordial flame immediately became 10 times or even 100 times more violent. Roar! The immemorial thunder dragon was caught off guard. The dragon claw that was originally grabbing the fire crow was blown away. Faintly, An amethyst dragon scale fell to the flame mountain. What a fellow! He actually knows how to self-destruct. Nether was shocked. Sakura couldn't help but be shocked in his heart, but there wasn't the slightest bit of panic on his face. Instead of being shocked, he was delighted as he said, "These fire crows are indeed strange. However, I must keep them all into the bell of heaven's samsara today." Dang! The ancient bell shook violently. Immediately, a series of overbearing and shocking chimes rang out. The might of a mid-tier natural soul treasure was completely displayed at this moment. The sound of reincarnation contained within the chimes was like a tide, swiftly and unstoppably burrowing into the minds of the fire crows. In an instant, countless strange illusions of reincarnation appeared in their minds. On the spot, the originally violent fire crows were all stunned in midair. With the strength of these fire crows, there was no way they could withstand the full power of D. Shurtian's ancient bell. "Let I into the bell of heaven's samsara for my use." D. Shurtian waved the bell of heaven's samsara and swept the 1,000 fire crows into the ancient bell again. They merged into the sea of fire and hung in the sea of fire like little suns. These fire crows seemed to be protecting something. After keeping the fire crows, D. Shurtian muttered to himself. He did not know why, but he felt that these fire crows were some kind of bodyguards. They seemed to be protecting something. Therefore, when they saw him rushing up the mountain, they came forward to stop him regardless of their own safety. He could not help but feel a strong sense of curiosity in his heart. Without any hesitation, the Celestial Emperor's chariot continued to speed up the mountain. All the flames were repelled by the divine light emitted by the chariot and separated to two sides. Although the mountain was tall, it was not a problem for the immemorial Thunder Dragon's speed. In just an instant, they had crossed the sea of fire. They appeared at the top of the mountain. The chariot stopped in the void. From top to bottom, one could see the entire blazing mountain in one glance. Hiss! Ming, who had been in the infernal purgatory, could not help but gasp. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He cried out, What is that? Could it be an ancient tomb? Whose tomb would be built on top of the mountain of flames? What a huge ancient tomb. D. Shurtian also gasped. His pupils constricted. He stared at the top of the mountain. At the top of the mountain, there was a huge golden ancient tomb. In front of the ancient tomb was a huge tombstone. The tombstone was at least 3,000 feet tall. It was completely golden and exuded a noble aura. Countless domineering flames enveloped the entire ancient tomb like a tide. It was like a huge golden fireball. Unfortunately, behind the tombstone, there was a golden tomb door. However, the door to the tomb had been opened. The entrance to the tomb was abnormally deep. It was like the bloody mouth of a primordial beast. As for the tombstone, there was no indication of the tomb's owner's name or identity on the tombstone. However, a vivid and lifelike picture appeared on top of it. Those were golden-colored fire crows, soaring in the void with various postures. Everywhere they passed, everything would be incinerated. The aura that every single one of them exuded was abnormally terrifying, making Sakura feel incomparably oppressed. These pictures naturally gave the tombstone a supreme pressure that suppressed the primordial era. This ancient tomb is constantly absorbing and devouring the various flames formed on the flaming mountain. Heavenly fire of purification, colored glass heavenly fire, 9 heavenly fire, true sun fire. My goodness, whose tomb is this? It's so terrifying. Ming opened his eyes wide. This didn't look like a tomb at all. Instead, it looked like a cultivation cave. It was actually absorbing all kinds of true fire. It was extremely strange. Roar. While he was guessing, a loud dragon roar filled with primordial aura suddenly came from the tomb. There seemed to be violent anger and mournful in the dragon roar. Master, this is Old Flame's voice. The immemorial thunder dragon blinked its eyes and stared at the tomb, shouting loudly. The primordial fire dragon is in this ancient tomb. D. Shurtian's pupils constricted as he stared at the strange ancient tomb. In his mind, he quickly deduced. The Bedlam lands had always been strange and full of disasters. Moreover, countless ancient almighty experts would come here at the end of their lifespans to find a secret place to build their own ancient tombs to bury themselves. It seemed that there were some unusual secrets hidden in the Bedlam lands. Otherwise, if they really wanted to build an ancient tomb, they wouldn't have to do it in the land of chaos. Moreover, the strangest thing was that the masters of these ancient tombs were mostly centipedes. They were always waiting for the right time to seize the body and be reborn. Tion had seen many ancient tombs in the Tribulation Cave abode. However, none of them were as strange as this one. It was as if the entire ancient tomb was alive. It emitted a strange aura. It made people feel a chill down their spines. Dark, you've been following the Emperor of the Underworld since the ancient times. You're very knowledgeable and know many secrets. I wonder if you know anything about the Bedlam lands. Why did so many ancient experts come here and build tombs themselves? I heard that some powerful experts who didn't die and didn't reach the end of their lives also built ancient tombs. They either entered the tombs to sleep or cut off their vitality. Is there some great secret hidden in the land of chaos? Looking at the golden ancient tomb in front of him, Tion began to wonder why the land of chaos had become a burial ground in ancient times. Hearing Sakura's question, Ming's expression obviously changed, and there was a trace of unusualness. There was a trace of hesitation. Whether it was the heavenly punishment world or the nether prison, Tion ruled over them. As long as he wanted to know, there was nothing that could be hidden from him. The change in Dark's expression naturally fell into his eyes. However, he didn't interrogate him on the spot. He just waited silently. That's right. Dark hesitated for a moment. Then his eyes suddenly widened. He gritted his teeth as if he had made up his mind. With an unusually solemn expression, he said, "There is indeed a great secret hidden in the land of chaos. However, no one has ever confirmed whether it is true or not." He took a deep breath. There was a trace of reminiscence in his eyes. According to ancient legends, there is a divine tomb hidden in the land of chaos. Dark uttered one word at a time. What? Even though Tion was an ancient heavenly demon and had a strong state of mind after experiencing the realm of desire many times, he couldn't help but be shocked when he heard that sentence. Secret. Sure enough, it was a world-shaking secret. Although he guessed that there must be some great secret hidden in the land of chaos that even powerful ancient experts were scrambling for, he didn't expect that this secret would be related to the legendary Divine Tomb. What was the Divine Tomb? The Divine Tomb was a ladder to heaven. It was a path for powerful experts to reach the immortal and indestructible realm. It was a necessary treasure to become an immortal and indestructible sovereign. The Demon Master obtained a Divine Tomb and eventually became an immortal Demon Master. He became a supreme sovereign. The Space Master also obtained a Divine Tomb. It allowed him to transcend heaven and earth, transcend the Great Tao, and control the Great Tao of space. He became a sovereign. The Fate Master obtained a Divine Tomb and controlled the River of Fate. He became immortal and indestructible and became one of the only 3 sovereigns in heaven and earth. Each and every one of them indicated the miraculous and precious nature of the tomb of the God of Sin. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 856. It's Monday. Brothers with recommendation tickets, please help me. Thanks, Drifting. According to legend, there were a total of 9 divine tombs in the world, and each of them contained a unique and unparalleled opportunity in the world. They were the greatest opportunities and adventures, and no immortal fate could compare to them. 3 divine tombs had directly created 3 sovereigns. It was said that each divine tomb contained the true foundation of the Great Tao. There were supreme techniques that could allow unparalleled experts to advance. There were shocking treasures. There were rumors. There were too many rumors about the divine tomb, so many that even the peerless powerhouses couldn't completely distinguish which were true and which were false. However, the divine tombs were a legend. This was deeply ingrained in the mind of every cultivator in the universe. Unparalleled experts would go completely crazy for the divine tombs. Deschertion was no stranger to the divine tombs. There was a divine tomb in the southern wilderness Myriad Demon Valley. However, this was a divine tomb with an owner. Bystanders couldn't touch it at all. It was incomparably difficult for him to even approach it. Even when ancient giants approached, they were still easily crushed to death. The power of the divine tombs was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. There was a divine tomb in the Bedlam lands. If this news were spread, it would probably poke a big hole in the sky. He took a deep breath and silently recited the Imperial Tyrant Heart Sutra in his heart. He quickly calmed his mind and said in a deep voice, "Is there really a divine tomb in the Bedlam lands?" "That's right." Ming nodded and said, "This news is absolutely correct because it came from the mouth of the Sovereign of Fate." The three sovereigns each obtained a divine tomb. The Southern Wilderness is the fourth divine tomb, and the Bedlam lands is the fifth divine tomb. It is said that the Sovereign of Fate once saw the fifth divine tomb in the Bedlam lands. However, no one could control two of the 9 divine tombs at the same time. In the end, the divine tomb disappeared. However, the divine tomb has always existed in the Bedlam lands. It's just that it's always on the move, making it difficult to find and capture. Innumerable thoughts were flashing crazily in Sakra's mind. His entire mind was continuously deducing at an unprecedented speed. In the blink of an eye, he had a rough guess as to why so many mighty figures had come to build tombs in the fringe. Could it be that one of the main reasons why those ancient experts entered the Bedlam lands and built tombs was to find the legendary 5th divine tomb? Ming chuckled and said, "Exactly. Information about the divine tomb during the ancient times isn't a secret amongst some experts, and there are even as many as the stars in the sky have gone mad for it." However, even sovereigns aren't able to capture the divine tomb's tracks, so even a single glance at it is an extraordinarily great fortune. The land of chaos was filled with endless disasters. There were some ominous lands where even ancient giants would die the moment they entered. However, wisdom is limitless. Back then, some mighty figures really did come up with a solution. Since it had already said it, there was no need to hide it anymore. He opened his mouth and spoke leisurely, revealing everything he knew. The fringe was extremely vast and filled with disasters. There were unimaginable obstacles to finding the divine tombs. The real difficulty was the fact that the divine tombs were constantly moving around the fringe. He would never stay in any place. It was almost as difficult to find it as entering the chaos. However, in the end, some cultivators came up with a solution. The method that the ancient cultivators came up with was truly ruthless. They actually directly entered the fringe lands, built tombs, and buried themselves in them. What was even more ruthless was that the tombs couldn't be built at will, but were connected to the fringe lands through a special method. Burying one's body in the tombs would allow one's body to remain immortal for hundreds of millions of years. As for their own yuan spirit, they used a madman's method to separate it from their own body. Separating from his physical body was similar to the old lunatic who had connected his primordial spirit to the void and merged with the heavenly Tao when he was forced by the ferocious god who had refined the heavenly pillar mountain into the executing heaven sword. However, the ancient experts who built the tombs didn't fuse their yuan spirit with the void to court death. It was no different from courting death. They fused their yuan spirit with the fringe lands. They wanted to fuse with the fringe lands. After fusing their yuan spirit with the fringe lands, they would be able to control the fringe lands and capture the divine tombs. This could be said to increase the chances by no less than 30% in an instant. However, fusing with the fringe lands was the same as fusing with the void. Both were simply courting death. One was certain death, while the other was a chance to remain conscious. But this chance was also extremely slim. Because the fringe lands were full of disasters and chaos, The moment one's yuan spirit fused with it, he would be attacked by countless chaotic thoughts. If he couldn't withstand it, he would immediately be crushed into pieces. If he could withstand it, he would be able to fuse with the fringe lands and search for the divine tombs as he wished without any obstruction. But if one of the 10 great experts could succeed, it would be a stroke of luck. Therefore, it wasn't wrong to say that the divine tombs were a burial ground. Otherwise, once one cultivated to the level of an ancient overlord, it would be difficult for one to die unless they encountered unimaginable disasters or the most terrifying legendary 5 decay of the heavens. To live as long as the heavens and earth, to shine as brightly as the sun and moon, was a simple matter. The so-called great limit was simply their own heart and nothing more. When one's desire was fulfilled, one's great limit would also be reached. These ancient great experts naturally knew the dangers of fusing with the fringe lands, but they were still like moths to a flame, advancing dauntlessly one after another in search of that faint trace of opportunity. Until the very end, no one would believe that they weren't the one fated with the divine tombs. However, they also knew the dangers. Therefore, if nothing unexpected happened, almost all of them would leave behind their inheritance and backup plans in the divine tombs. Once they died, they could ensure that their inheritance wouldn't be destroyed, and they might even be reborn through possession. This was the reason for the legend of the divine tombs. Everything was for the sake of the divine tombs. Lunatics, all of them are fucking lunatics. After listening to Dark's summary, Tian was silent for a long time before he finally spat out a sentence. They were indeed lunatics. For the sake of the divine tombs, they were almost willing to give up their almost eternal lifespan in pursuit of that faint trace of opportunity. Fusing one's primordial spirit with the fringe lands was truly an act of lunacy. He finally understood why Dark had never told him the real reason behind the divine tomb's existence. It was afraid that he couldn't resist the temptation of the divine tombs and would build the divine tombs and fuse his primordial spirit with the fringe lands. That would truly be a day of no transcendence. It was afraid that it would go to the extreme and walk the path of no return. Divine tombs. Tian looked up at the chaotic void above his head, his eyes abnormally deep. He smiled and said, "Although the divine tombs are a ladder to the sovereign realm, I, Tian, have never relied on anyone's strength since I came out of Tiger Hill. I only believe in myself. So what if there is no divine tombs? Those who rely on the divine tombs to become a sovereign are those who have no confidence in themselves. I firmly believe that even without the divine tombs, as long as I want to become a sovereign, I can still break the shackles of heaven and earth with my own body. I'm above the great Tao, standing on the celestial emperor's war chariot. His black imperial robe fluttered even though there was no wind. His black hair fluttered behind his head, naturally brimming with strong confidence. He was like an ancient emperor who could control everything in the universe. He could pluck the stars and the moon as if he was taking something out of his pocket. Who said that one can't become a sovereign without the divine tombs? He well said. Ming heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Indra wasn't interested in the tomb of the god of sin. He smiled and said, "Although the tomb of the god of sin is the greatest fortuitous encounter in the world, it is true that there is no rule in the universe that states that one must possess the tomb of the god of sin in order to become a hegemon. Moreover, there are at least 4 divine tombs in the universe. With your luck, Lunatic D, you may be able to obtain one." Sakura once again placed his gaze on the golden ancient tomb in front of him and muttered, "Then who exactly is the owner of this ancient tomb in front of us? Let's go in and take a look. Even the primordial flame dragon is in the divine tombs. There must be something special in the divine tombs. How can we return empty-handed after entering a treasure mountain?" Dark urged. With Tian's current battle strength, he could go anywhere he wanted. There was no need for him to hold back, and he kept shouting, "All right, Lei Long, stay behind. When Sky Silkworm, Huang Quan, and the others return, tell them not to act rashly and wait outside if I haven't left the divine tombs yet." Tian glanced at the primordial Lei Long and instructed. Without another word, he stepped down from the Celestial Emperor's war chariot. He quickly approached the divine tombs. Without the protection of the Celestial Emperor's war chariot, a blazing flame immediately rushed towards him as soon as he landed on the flame mountains, wanting to burn him to ashes. Flames of the universe, why don't you retreat before I? Sakura merely raised his eyes and gave a glance before he lightly shouted. His words were naturally filled with an unimaginable majesty and power, as if it was a command issued by the heavens and earth. It was filled with great power. The flames in the surroundings seemed to have a life of their own as they heard the king's order and quickly retreated to the sides. In the blink of an eye, a long path was formed that led directly to the divine tombs. Di Shurtian did not even look at it as he walked to the entrance of the divine tombs. In the divine tombs, there were countless different types of flames that formed a seven-colored flame that appeared before him. Those flames contained unimaginably domineering flames. Unsurprisingly, even the ancient giants would find it difficult to withstand. Flames of a universe cannot burn I's body, Di Shurtian said again and stepped into the divine tombs. He stepped through the various flames. When the flames landed on his body, they did not even burn his emperor's robe. It was as if those flames did not exist at all, as if they were illusions. What blazing flames! The owner of this divine tombs must be an almighty expert who plays with fire. As soon as Di Shurtian entered the divine tombs, he felt a wave of heat wash over him. Almost every inch of space was filled with endless flames. Every flame was terrifyingly pure and domineering. It was as if the divine tombs were a world of fire. Step by step, he walked deeper into the divine tombs. Along the way, there were no traps or restrictions. It was like an open door. He could walk anywhere he wanted. Moreover, the further in they went, the wider their field of vision and space became. Suddenly, his vision opened up, but the scene in front of him caused Di Shurtian's pupils to constrict. "This is," he muttered to himself. Chapter 857. "Oh my God, what's this?" Ming could not help but gasp. Her eyes widened as she stared ahead and cried out involuntarily. There were no restrictions or traps in the ancient tomb at all. Not only was there no obstruction along the way, there was also no rugged terrain. It cannot be said that there was nothing in the depths of the ancient tomb. The various flames in the tomb were also a huge test. If an ordinary cultivator did not have a good fire-resistant treasure, it would be extremely difficult to pass through the flames. They would probably be burned to ashes halfway through. However, the scene that appeared in front of Di Shurtian when his eyes suddenly opened up. "What tree is this?" Di Shurtian asked in surprise. There was an extremely huge area in front of him. At a glance, it was vast and boundless, as if he could not see the end of it. Countless blazing flames emerged from the ground. The flames seemed to have a mind of their own as they constantly surged and condensed into various fantastical things. There were animals, flowers, and trees. They were grotesque and variegated. They constantly changed. It was very strange. It was as if he was in a world of flames. At the center of this world of flames were two extremely huge mulberry trees leaning against each other, as if they were born from the same root. They were like a loving couple that leaned against each other closely. There were a total of 10 thick branches on the two mulberry trees, and at the bottom of each branch hung a small, resplendent golden sun. They were golden and indescribably divine. The flames that radiated from them had an aura of the origin of fire. It made Di Shurtian smell a dangerous aura. The tree was around 50,000 feet tall and covered in dense leaves. The leaves were scarlet red, and every leaf naturally formed a strange pattern. They intertwined and seemed to contain the charm of fire. Moreover, the shape of the leaves was extremely strange. They actually showed various lifelike fire crows. It seemed as if there were countless fire crows growing on the tree. He looked at the mulberry tree that had 10 small suns hanging from it. Di Shurtian's mind spun rapidly. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes and said, It is said that there is a big natural spiritual root in the world called the Fusang tree. The Fusang tree got its name from two similar mulberry trees that grew from the same spiritual root. It is the head of all fire elemental divine trees in the world. One of the royal three-legged golden crows of my demon race was born from the Fusang tree. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the innate spirit root, mulberry divine wood. The Fusang divine tree was not an ordinary tree. It was at the same level as the peaches of immortality. There were 10 small suns hanging on the tree. Those were the Fusang fruits. As long as one consumed one of them, the sun divine veins would appear in one's body. Then, one's cultivation speed would increase by leaps and bounds. Moreover, the golden crow eggs that the 10 golden crows had condensed using the reincarnation grand art in the fallen god abyss needed to be bathed in the purest fire origin from the hibiscus divine tree in order to be completely born. Even a leaf that fell from a tree was a rare treasure. That's right. This must be the legendary Fusang divine tree. I didn't expect it to appear here. If we can move it to the demon city, it will immediately benefit the countless demons who cultivate fire elemental cultivation methods in the ancient city. Ming exclaimed. His eyes began to emit dazzling light. Look, what's that? However, after taking a closer look, Ming exclaimed. At the top of the Fusang divine tree, there was an enormous bird's nest. That bird's nest was several hundred feet in size. It was weaved by numerous sparkling and translucent crimson vines. The weaving technique was exceptionally fine, causing the bird's nest to not have the slightest bit of roughness. Instead, it had a kind of unusual exquisiteness. It was like the most perfect piece of art. The bird's nest was enveloped in countless blazing golden flames. They were almost all the purest true sun fire. It was burning fiercely. No one knew what the bird's nest was made of. Under the burning of the true sun fire, not only did it not burn to ashes, but also became more sparkling and mystical. The flame in the bird's nest was the hottest spot in the entire Fusang divine tree. One could clearly see countless flames rushing into the bird's nest as if they were being devoured by some strange force. The bird's nest was like a terrifying black hole, crazily engulfing the endless flames. Divine object. That bird's nest must be a divine object. Even thousands of flames could not completely burn it to ashes. It must be a rare treasure in the world. Lunatic D, if you have the chance, you must get the Fusang divine tree and the bird's nest. I didn't expect that there would be such a divine object in this ancient tomb. Nether didn't conceal her possessiveness at all, and she started shouting. D. Shirtion did not immediately make a move. It would be a lie to say that he was not tempted. No matter where it was, the Fusang divine tree was an unparalleled treasure. However, even though such an ancient tomb stood there, no one had taken it away. From this, it could be seen that the hibiscus divine tree before them was not as simple as it appeared to be. Croak, croak, croak. At this moment, a hoarse and unpleasant cry sounded in D. Shirtian's ears again. It's the fire crow, Ming said in surprise. It's on the Fusang divine tree. D. Shirtian immediately looked at the bird's nest at the top of the Fusang divine tree. He heard it clearly. The fire crow's cry just now came from that huge bird's nest. He had a divine ability, clairaudient. His hearing was amazing, so he definitely did not hear it wrong. What? He didn't even think about it. His entire body floated up into the air and rose up quickly. He wanted to see what kind of mysterious existence was in the nest with his own eyes. Vaguely, he felt that there was an unusually obscure and dangerous aura in the bird's nest. It was as if there was an unparalleled demon inside. He quickly rose to a height of 40 to 50,000 feet and looked inside. Immediately, the scene in the bird's nest was panoramic. However, the scene that he saw made D. Shirtian's pupils contract violently. His heart could not help but beat violently. What appeared in front of him was a young man wearing a golden fire crow Taoist robe. He seemed to know that he was coming. When he saw him looking at him, he showed his teeth and smiled silently. You've come. A voice with an extremely peculiar and intimate aura resounded in Sakra's ears. That voice would make anyone who heard it have a good impression of it. Who are you? Sakura wasn't afraid at all. Both of his eyes shot out traces of divine light. He cultivated the power of desire, and his will was firm. Even if it was comparable to a peerless expert, his mind wouldn't be shaken by a single sentence. He just quietly swept his gaze across the nest. His face didn't change, but his heart was secretly shocked. In the bird's nest, the young man in a Taoist robe was sitting there. However, there were many black iron chains on his body. They bound his hands, legs, neck, body, and other parts of his body. On each iron chain, there were countless mysterious runes flashing. In each rune, there were countless calamities that were constantly changing and even disappearing. There seemed to be countless calamities connected, one after another, in an endless cycle. The other end of the iron chain that bound the Taoist in the bird's nest was connected to the 10 thick branches of the Fusang divine tree. The young man could not break free from the bird's nest at all. Moreover, there was an endless amount of calamity power that continuously flowed through the iron chain and surged into his body. There was an astonishingly vast power surging in his body. The blazing and overbearing true power of the sun shuttled back and forth in his meridians. His appearance could be said to be that of a handsome man. No matter where he was, he would be the object of thousands of women screaming and going crazy for him. The faintly discernible, amiable smile at the corner of his mouth would naturally cause people to have a good impression of him as long as they saw him. He had an unimaginable and shocking charm. Above his head, there was a golden divine pot floating in the air, spinning. On the surface of the divine pot, there were countless vivid drawings of fire crows, as if they were real. This divine pot seemed to have a magical power. As it spun, all kinds of flames in the surroundings were sucked into the pot like a tide. There were faint sounds of crows crying from within the pot. The aura it exuded was obscure and profound. It seemed to contain a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. Tian did not feel anything, but in the nether prison, Ming could not help but gasp. This is the innate spiritual treasure, the 1,000-crow pot. No wonder we encountered millions of fire crows on the flaming mountain. It's because of this 1,000-crow pot. The 1,000-crow pot was not an ordinary innate spiritual treasure. It had the magical power to swallow all kinds of flames and condense divine fire crows. As long as there were flames, it could continuously refine countless fire crows. These fire crows were a kind of strange life. After they were condensed, they could continuously evolve. The most terrifying thing was that once 1,000,000 fire crows set up the 1,000-crow array, even heaven and earth would be burned to ashes in an instant. It was said that this array had once refined a peerless demon god to death. The owner of the myriad crow pot was a primordial Yao god from the primordial Yao clan, Lord Divine Crow. I am Lord Divine Crow, the young man who was tied up in the nest said with a faint smile. His eyes carefully sized up Sakura for a long while, and there seemed to be a strange glint in his eyes as he said, I didn't expect that after the ancient times, there would still be a junior expert like you in my demon race. You have the Tao of an ancient heavenly demon. It's not an easy task to cultivate to this level in the myriad of worlds. You are Lord Divine Crow, a senior of the demon clan? Tian did not feel any joy at his praise, nor did he tremble in the face of an ancient demon god or a peerless expert. He was now a demon emperor, and his status was comparable to that of a peerless expert. Respect was respect, but there was no reason to fear. At the same time, he quickly asked Ming in his mind, what was the reputation of this Lord Divine Crow in the ancient times? To be continued. If you want to know more, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 858. Urgent recommendation. Brothers with tickets, please help to support it. Lord Divine Crow was also an unparalleled, ferocious god in the ancient times. It was said that he was born on the Fusang divine tree and was almost of the same origin as the three-legged golden crow. However, his bloodline was not as pure as the three-legged golden crows, so he did not grow a third leg. In the end, he was classified as a fire crow. However, his aptitude was also extremely terrifying. In the ancient times, he broke through the ranks of the ancient Fey gods. When Nether saw Tao, Lord Divine Crow, he could not help but reveal a hint of fear in his expression. He continued, "Lunatic D, you have to be careful. Tao, Lord Divine Crow, was famous for being temperamental in the ancient times. Moreover, his temperament was extremely strange and unpredictable. However, during the ancient war, he did not escape. His Thousand Crow formation had burned countless fiend gods. Its power was extremely domineering. He disappeared during the war. Everyone thought that he had died. Who would have thought that he would appear here? He's also tied up here by iron chains. It seems that he has met with a great disaster. Only those who had existed in the ancient era would know how ferocious Tao, Lord Divine Crow, was. Wherever the Thousand Crow pot passed, not a single blade of grass grew. D. Shirtion silently went through all the information about Tao, Lord Divine Crow, in his mind. Looking at the gentle-looking Tao, Lord in front of him, he did not feel much resentment in his heart. No matter how fierce his reputation was, it could not erase the fact that he was an ancient Fey god of the Fey race. Thoughts ran quickly in his mind. He said in a deep voice, "Junior D. Shirtion, I am now a Fey Emperor of the Fey race. Tao, Lord Divine Crow, is an ancestor of the Fey race. May I know why Tao, Lord Divine Crow, is trapped here? May I know how to help Tao, Lord Divine Crow, out of this predicament?" His voice was naturally filled with the aura and might of a Fey Emperor. Tao, Lord Divine Crow. This was an expert among the peerless experts. How could he be tied up by iron chains on the Fusang Divine Tree? If this scene was seen by the experts of the ancient times, they might gouge out their eyeballs on the spot. This was a form of imprisonment. Imprisoning an ancient Fey god? If these words were to spread, the entire universe would be shaken on the spot. Hearing this, Tao, Lord Divine Crow carefully sized up Sakura, then shook his head with a faint smile. His body naturally exuded a unique kind of calmness. He said, "So, it's the current demon emperor of the monster race. No wonder you have such a temperament. However, these 9 immemorial divine chains are something that even I can't break. With your current strength, you won't be able to break them. Moreover, these immemorial divine chains were made by me personally entering the chaos to find chaos divine stones and countless other materials. I was also willing to be imprisoned." What? These words immediately caused both D. Shirtion and Ming to be astounded, and it was like tempestuous waves were surging through their hearts. The Tao, Lord Divine Crow, before him had actually sealed himself here. This fact was even more unimaginable than the previous guesses. Although Tao, Lord Divine Crow, had already guessed that he would have such a surprised expression, he did not mind and said with a faint smile, "How is the situation of the monster race in the various worlds now?" Next, he did not say anything else. He only asked about some things that had happened to the monster race since the ancient times. How was their overall strength? D. Shirtion also spoke leisurely, revealing the matter of the monster race being betrayed by the human race after the ancient times. In Tao, Lord Divine Crow's ears, one could clearly see that he was frowning nonstop. There seemed to be a hint of terrifying anger. After a long time, after listening to everything, Tao, Lord Divine Crow's brows had become abnormally gloomy and terrifying. He let out a cold snort and said, "The human race is indeed evil. How dare they bully the monster race like this? If I wasn't trapped here, I would have burned the human race to ashes." 6 hours passed by the time they entered the tomb. D. Shirtion walked out of the ancient tomb as if nothing had happened. When he returned to the Celestial Emperor's chariot, Huang Quan and the others did not return. With a wave of his hand, a giant crimson dragon that was 30,000 feet long appeared on the flaming mountain. It was the primordial flame dragon. After it appeared, one of the 8 divine chains on the Celestial Emperor's chariot flew up like a spirit snake and instantly wrapped around the flame dragon's neck. It was completely connected to the celestial emperor's chariot. When he urged the chariot, the primordial flame dragon and the primordial thunder dragon roared at the same time and pulled the chariot out of the inferno prison at a speed far faster than before. Standing on the chariot, a light flashed in D. Shirtian's hand, and a few jade boxes appeared in front of him. In one of the jade boxes, there was a red branch that was as long as an arm. The branch naturally emitted a kind of blazing flame. It was wrapped in the golden, true fire of the sun. It was a branch that had been cut off from the hibiscus divine tree. The vitality emitted from it meant that if this branch was cultivated well, it might be able to come back to life. Even if it was not comparable to a real innate spiritual root, it was still a rare treasure. Moreover, with this Fusang branch, the golden crow and the golden crow egg could also be bathed in fire and come out. It was very precious. Looking at the other jade box, the next one contained a small fist-sized sun. That small sun was one of the 10 sun fruits hanging on the Fusang divine tree. It contained a huge amount of pure, true sun force. Once consumed, not only would it increase one's true chi instantly, but it would also cause the true sun fire to be born in one's body and become the life divine fire. It would cleanse the impurities in one's body. This sun fruit had absorbed the true sun fire from the Fusang divine tree for many years. The amount of energy it contained was definitely beyond imagination. It could be said to be a rare treasure that any cultivator in the world dreamed of. The fruit of the Fusang divine tree was even rarer and more precious than the flat peach tree. If someone else obtained such a sacred fruit, their first thought would be to find a place to refine it and turn it into strength that could increase one's dharma power by tens of thousands of years. However, Indra only quietly looked at the sun fruit in the jade box. Suddenly, he closed the jade box and sent it into his inner world with a wave of his hand. A hint of disdain appeared on the corner of his mouth. Rumble. The celestial emperor's chariot quickly left the inferno prison and the flaming mountain. At the same time, a shocking aura suddenly erupted from the ancient tomb on the flaming mountain. Damn it, heartless demon emperor! How dare you control my body and plot against the monster emperor of the monster clan? If anything happens to the monster emperor, I'll drag you down with me, even if I have to sacrifice tens of thousands of years of cultivation. A furious roar echoed in the ancient tomb. Suddenly, the door of the ancient tomb fell down. The ancient tomb was sealed. If it weren't for that old bastard Wan Jie, I wouldn't be afraid of you. I wouldn't be trapped in this damn place. However, I'm lucky to have sent a monster emperor here at this time. Not only will I destroy your monster emperor, but I'll also annihilate your entire race. The Tao is 1 foot tall, while the devil is 10 feet tall. Heavens will want this devil emperor to break free. You want to stop me, you stinking crow? A voice filled with emptiness rang out. Heartless demon. With me here, you won't get away with it. I can already feel that Wan Jie has broken free. Those demon bastards of yours didn't stop him at all. Instead, they increased his chances of surviving the tribulation. Wan Jie's myriad tribulation mystic arts increases the more tribulations he undergoes. Your end is near. Tao Lord Divine Crow's tone was resolute. The annihilation tide is coming. Your origin continent will be destroyed sooner or later. It will merge with the demon god continent and become the ancient celestial realm. Once you transcend the chaos, all the living beings in this universe will be sacrificed to the sacred sacrifice. All of them will die. The heartless demon emperor sneered. At this moment, in the purple gold continent, in the southern wilderness. Back then, the southern wilderness was invaded by venerables who were ancient giants. They wanted to slaughter the southern wilderness. However, in the end, a mysterious tombstone appeared and completely froze the entire southern wilderness. All the invaders were turned into ice sculptures and were still standing in the forest. The flowers and trees of the southern wilderness were also turned into ice sculptures and turned into an ice forest. The air was filled with a bone-chilling cold. But the strange thing was that the cold air emitted by the tombstone back then didn't freeze the living beings, animals, or even demon beasts in the southern wilderness. It was as if they had spirituality. Moreover, the entire southern barbarian lands was under a strange restriction from now on. No cultivator or creature outside the southern barbarian lands could enter the southern barbarian. As soon as they stepped in, they would immediately be frozen by the terrifying cold air. It directly turned the southern wilderness into a terrifying, forbidden land of ice. All kinds of plants and trees that could only be found in icy places grew inside. It allowed the living beings in the southern wilderness to survive. The southern wilderness was full of mystery. In ancient times, it was one of the main battlefields between the demon gods. In this place, the number of experts and demon gods that had perished was innumerable. But here, countless legends and mysteries were left behind, under the southern wilderness. Back then, Tion had chased after the Rat King and discovered an ancient pagoda in the ruins that he had witnessed with his own eyes. The entire pagoda emitted a simple charm. It was as if it had existed since ancient times. In the ruins, shrouded in countless strange mists, in the ancient pagoda, a cold and beautiful woman quickly changed seals in her hands. Countless white mists continuously seeped out of the pagoda and quickly entered her body through the pores of her body. Almost every time she absorbed a trace of this white mist, the aura emitted from her body became stronger. An ancient mirror hung above her head, constantly swallowing and exhaling the mist. This caused strange patterns to appear on the ancient mirror. It emitted a mysterious Tao rhyme. Phew! After a long time, she slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. It's almost time for the 100 clans to return. I wonder how Tion and the others are doing now. The black hair on the cold and beautiful woman's head strangely turned into countless ferocious and terrifying poisonous snakes. However, in the blink of an eye, it returned to its original state as if it was simply an illusion. Who else could this woman be but Medusa from back then? Back then, after returning to the southern wilderness from the heaven-reaching tower, she had been hiding in the underground ruins and quietly cultivating until now. Well, I have already made some progress in the great yin divine calculation that Mother taught me. I can just calculate their current situation. Medusa muttered to herself. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. More chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 859. The divine divination of great creation was the best divine divination of heaven's secrets. It could detect the hidden workings of heaven's secrets and see the hidden changes in the river of fate. It could deduce the past and the future. It could accurately deduce the past, but the future was full of unknowns. No divine divination in the world could be accurate, and accurate deductions could only be vaguely probed. However, there is no doubt that this kind of divination method was something that everyone in the world dreamed of. As long as one had such a divine ability, anyone who wanted to scheme against themselves would be able to sense it. Then, they would be able to use the divine ability to predict the future. Seek fortune and avoid calamity. Avoid calamity. Divine divination mirror. Medusa waved her hand at the ancient mirror that was suspended above her head. The ancient mirror swiftly descended and appeared in front of her. The 10 fingers on both of her hands began to change rapidly, forming numerous dazzling seals. One could vaguely see countless fragments of the circulation of heaven's secrets flickering within the seals. They all entered the divine divination mirror in front of her. Swoosh! Countless ripples appeared on the surface of the divine divination mirror, which was originally bronze. In the blink of an eye, it became crystal clear and fragmented images appeared in it. They were lifelike and abnormally vivid. Medusa looked over. Suddenly, the images in the ancient mirror flashed one by one. Images of the illusory island appeared. Vast ancient islands, warships, and countless cultivators from the various heavens. The illusory serpent, the demon city, Tion, and even the mysterious crystallized coffin. Everything that had happened in the endless void appeared in the ancient mirror. Although the images in the ancient mirror were somewhat fragmented and flashed by, it was not difficult to see the truth of these images when they were connected. The simulation in the ancient mirror continued to progress. All of a sudden, a huge beast appeared in the ancient mirror. The beast opened its huge mouth and bit down on the demon city. Fierce and violent, the ferocious aura that erupted from the ferocious beast instantly shattered the image in the ancient mirror. Ding! The flowing light on the ancient mirror instantly collapsed. All the light suddenly vanished, and the ancient bronze mirror returned to its original simple and unadorned appearance. The void illusory island and all the other worlds are attacking D. Shurtion. Also, the demon city actually became a paragon artifact in his hands. Medusa's face was glowing. In an instant, she received information about the shocking battle in the endless void from the ancient mirror. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked and surprised. At the same time, there was also a hint of pride. The myriad demon city was an unparalleled ancient city that D. Shurtion had been building all this time. She was also aware of the news of the construction. However, back then, the demon city wasn't completed at all, and it didn't appear in the world. The first time it appeared was in the demon realm, and she didn't see it with her own eyes. She didn't expect that in such a short period of time, the demon city would not only be completed, but it would also shock everyone and reach the supreme grade. It could be said to be the most unbelievable thing in the world. Moreover, she just saw in the ancient mirror that the number of demons in the demon city had reached a huge number of billions. This number was also something she didn't dare to imagine before. The information obtained from the ancient mirror fell into her eyes, and she felt like she was in a dream. It wasn't that it was impossible to predict, but that the world changed too quickly. A strange look flashed across Medusa's eyes as she muttered to herself, D. Shurtion. Oh, D. Shurtion. I'm afraid that back then, no one would have imagined that you would be able to achieve this. The Thousand Demon City has been promoted to a paragon artifact. Our demon race has declined for countless years, and we are finally going to have a place to settle down. Such a strange man. How many can there be since ancient times? Could it be that the love, tribulation that Mother told me will happen to him? Her heart was moved, and ripples appeared in the calm lake of her heart. The Jade Pool banquet in a year's time will also be the gathering of the southern barbarians. A light flashed in Medusa's hand, and 2 jade talismans appeared. In an instant, they turned into 2 streams of light, quickly escaped from the ancient tower, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the endless void, there were all kinds of disasters, storms, countless meteorites, countless space traps, a large number of broken ancient treasures, and countless chaotic fragments. The space was full of instability, and it was distorted and collapsing at any time. In such an environment, even those with profound cultivation would not easily set foot in it unless it was a last resort. But now, in the endless void, which had always been deserted, groups of cultivators were constantly emerging, entering one after another, and rushing to a certain place quickly. In the sky above the illusory island of nothingness, an ancient city, which was larger than 10 Earths combined, stood in the sky. Countless auspicious clouds drifted away, supporting the entire ancient city. Shrouded in the auspicious clouds, the ancient city did not have half a city wall. There were only 4 ancient heavenly gates that were faintly discernible in the clouds. In the white clouds, it looked extremely mysterious. It exuded a kind of indescribable nobility. When people saw it, they would unconsciously feel a sense of insignificance and awe. This ancient city was, of course, the Demon City. After the war, the ancient city did not leave the illusory void island, but remained in the sky above it. At the same time, a large number of illusory realms were plundered and absorbed into the ancient city, fusing into the well of demons and gods. When the Imperial Jade Archive was refining the void crystal, it was constantly absorbing pieces of space faults, constantly absorbing the fragments of the law of space, and fusing them into the Jade Archive. The Great Tao of Space, which was ranked in the top 10 of the Great Taos, was constantly being perfected, and there were faint signs of it being completely perfected. In front of the Gate of Heaven, groups of elite demon soldiers stood guard. These demon soldiers were the elites of the four armies. Every single one of them had the combat strength of a peak ancient demon. Furthermore, there were two blood-slaughter generals standing guard in front of the gates. This made the demon city naturally exude a kind of solemn atmosphere. However, at this moment, a large number of cultivators were continuously entering the ancient city through the Gate of Heaven. Rumble. In the void outside the southern Gate of Heaven, a gorgeous carriage broke through the air. That carriage was actually pulled by 9 dragons, and its speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the southern gate. After showing the entry token, the carriage smoothly passed through the southern Gate of Heaven. Once it entered the ancient city, a guard led the carriage to a square specially used for carriages and horses. That square was called the Imperial Observatory. He stopped the carriage in the Imperial Observatory and lifted the bead curtains. A young lady wearing a fiery red dress that accentuated her beautiful figure quickly jumped down from the carriage. Following closely behind was a girl in a green dress who looked slightly more mature. A chinkoan bag with a 7-colored halo hung on her waist. The last one was only 15 or 16 years old. She wore a green dress, and her eyes were clear and pure, as if there were ripples in them, making her very lovable. These were the 3 dragon princesses in the Misty Wave Lake's Dragon Palace. Ao Qing, Ao Hong, and Ao Shui. After coming down from the carriage, the 3 girls were very excited. Ao Hong took a deep breath, and the connate origin chi in the air entered her body through her nose. She let out a comfortable groan and said happily, "Such a comfortable aura, such pure origin chi. This should be the legendary connate origin chi. There's actually a kind of spirituality in this origin chi. Big sister, third sister, this is like another world. If we can cultivate here, I wonder how fast our cultivation speed will be." In the entire ancient city, almost every inch of the void was filled with rich connate origin chi. In such an environment, there was an indescribable sense of comfort. Ao Qing smiled and looked at the surroundings. She said, "According to my father, once it's promoted to a supreme artifact, it'll be like another world within it. It'll be independent from the myriad of worlds. The energy of heaven and earth within it will change from acquired to innate. The stronger the source of energy, the denser and purer the innate energy will be. Come, let's take a walk in the city. We're not in a hurry to see Sister Chan Shi, Sister Tian Xiang, and the others. The Feast of Immortality is about to begin, and the city must be very lively now. I wonder if there are any gambling houses." At the end, her eyes began to shine. "Yes, there must be a lot of fun here," Ao Shui said in a childish voice. The 3 girls walked out of the Imperial Observatory and walked in the ancient city. The demon city was very lively. Cultivators from all over the world had gathered in the city. Billions of demons had taken root here, and not only had they built countless houses, but also because a large number of demons had gathered from all over the world. When the demons returned to their ancestral home, they had brought all kinds of rare treasures with them. These treasures were exchanged for demon coins in the Jubao court. Some of the demon clans who were previously known as demon kings in certain regions immediately transformed and became abnormally wealthy. Some of the demon clans with brains were even more astute. They did not hold on to the demon coins, but found a place to open a shop. They started to sell their unique items. For example, the Bat clan could produce bright light, sand in their feces. This kind of treasure for refining artifacts and pills was unique to them. Naturally, they did not have to worry about sales. There were all kinds of items. Di Shirtian also knew about the opening of shops in the city. However, not only did he not stop it, he even strongly encouraged it. Under this kind of encouragement, all kinds of shops in the ancient city could be said to be springing up like bamboo shoots after the rain, constantly standing tall. Those who knew how to refine artifacts opened shops to buy all kinds of artifacts and treasures. Those who knew how to refine pills sold pills. Those who knew how to make talismans sold all kinds of spirit talismans and ancient talismans. There were even those who opened restaurants and inns. In a short period of time, the demon city had become exceptionally prosperous and prosperous. However, this situation was only for the demons. For the cultivators from all over the world, they did not have the right to open shops in the city. However, there were no restrictions on setting up stalls on both sides of the street. On the streets, one could clearly see countless cultivators setting up stalls on the sides of the streets. All kinds of items were displayed for sale. On the streets, there was an endless stream of people coming and going. In the ancient city, regardless of whether it was a cultivator or a demon, all transactions were paid with demon coins. Demon coins had been completely circulated among the cultivators of all over the world. Thank you for the 136 reward, Ko-er. It seems that it's time to explode. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 860. No spirit stones could be circulated in the city and could not be used to purchase any items. Demon coins. Only demon coins could be used to purchase any rare and exotic treasures. The exquisite features of spirit stones and their indestructible properties allowed them to replace spirit stones. There were also spirit stones cards for easy circulation. The cultivators of the various heavens could not help but fall in love with this new currency. Big sister, second sister, there's so many shops here, much more than the immortal cultivation cities we used to go to. Big Brother D is really amazing to be able to build such a prosperous ancient city. Ao Shui said excitedly as she walked along the streets. Her eyes constantly scanned the various places, sometimes looking at the stalls, sometimes looking at the surrounding shops. There were all kinds of goods in sight. There were also many exquisite accessories that female cultivators loved and exquisite immortal robes made of various precious materials. Those immortal robes were the favorite of female cultivators and were made by the cultivators of the demon clan, who were good at refining weapons. The materials used were even more precious. Some of them were made of the feathers that fell off from various kinds of demon clan birds when they transformed. Some are made of various kinds of fur, some are made of clouds, and so on. In just a short while, Ao Qing and her sisters had already changed into immortal robes, which made them look even more beautiful. Big Sister, the demon city, is a place where cultivators from all heavens gather. Moreover, the supreme divine weapon intimidates everyone. Almost none of the cultivators who enter the city dare to cause trouble. In my opinion, this will definitely become the most prosperous divine city in the world in the future. What do you think if we open a shop here? With the countless underwater treasures in our dragon palace, we will definitely be able to shine here. Business will be flourishing. While Ao Hong was strolling around, she was also constantly observing. They had come in advance this time for two reasons. Firstly, they were attending the Immortality Peach Banquet. Secondly, many ancestors of the Dragon Clan were already planning to strengthen their relationship with the Demon Clan. If they could obtain a shop in the Demon City, it would undoubtedly mean that they would have a direct connection with the Demon City. They could also sell a large number of items that the Dragon Clan did not need through the shop in exchange for a large number of precious treasures that they needed. This meant that they would have a foundation in the Demon City. The Dragon Clan had always lived in the four seas and the various large lakes. There was an extremely rich variety of aquatic products such as blood corals, thousand-year-old shells, various marine plants, countless spirit essences, large quantities of pearls, and even the bones of various aquatic creatures. If he could bring it over, it would definitely be sought after. For example, the shell of a sea turtle could be used to refine armor, shields, and so on. The treasures in the sea were much larger than those on land. Second sister, that's exactly what I was thinking. Ao Qing's eyes lit up as she said, I've already looked around earlier. There's actually not even a single gambling house in the city. If I could open one here, maybe business will be booming. Gambling was the innate nature of every living being. No one could forsake their 7 emotions and 6 desires. Even cultivators could not avoid gambling. If he really wanted to open a casino in the city, it might not be impossible. A.O. Shui blinked his eyes and said in a childish voice, "But, big sister, second sister, this place seems to be a shop opened by the demon clan. I heard that foreign cultivators are unable to buy land to build buildings in the city." His eyes seemed to be able to speak. Our dragon clan and the demon clan were one family in ancient times. Looking back, our dragon clan was also a branch of the demon clan. Others may not be able to build buildings, but we may be able to. Let's go, second sister, third sister, let's go to the Jade Pool to see Chan Shi and sister Tian Xiang. I heard that sister Xian has already given birth to a crown prince and a little princess. A.O. Qing's eyes turned as she reached out to the 2 girls and said softly. Immediately, the 3 girls quickly headed to the Jade Pool. At this moment, in a private room of a restaurant in the city, 2 girls were looking out the window. Looking at the endless stream of cultivators, they seemed to be deep in thought. Of the 2 girls, one wore a veil and sat in front of the window. Her body naturally exuded a kind of holy and ethereal aura, exuding an astonishing charm. The other was dressed as a maid. "Princess, the demon city has now banned all races from buying land to build buildings in the city. How are we going to build our Piao Xiang Valley?" That beautiful servant girl asked worriedly. "Xiaozhu, don't worry. I have my own plans for this." Concubine Xiang's eyes wandered as she said softly, "A year later, it will be the Peach of Immortality banquet. After the banquet, it will be the time for the 100 ancient clans to return. The Zijin mainland will once again become the center of the heavens. At that time, it will be the era of countless peerless geniuses. Our Sky Incense Valley is caught in the middle. Only by relying on a strong force can we survive and have a chance to grow. And the Demon King of the Demon Clan is a hero with great talent and bold vision. With this supreme divine weapon, no one can stop the rise of the Demon Clan. If we can get close to the Demon Clan, it will be immeasurable benefits for our Sky Incense Valley." She secretly made up her mind. No matter what, she had to build the Piao Xiang Valley in the Demon City. And with the previous incense, there might be a chance. Not to mention the little princess of the Sky Incense Valley. At this moment, the news of the Peach of Immortality banquet spread. Every day, a large number of cultivators came to the Demon City. Although they might not be able to attend the banquet, with the abundant Xiantian vital qi in the city, even if they stayed for a few days, it would be quite beneficial. Of course, some of them had other motives. Haha, immemorial thunder dragon, immemorial flame dragon, immemorial yellow dragon, immemorial gold dragon, and immemorial poison dragon. We have already gathered 5 of the immemorial 9 dragons. Now, we only need the immemorial ice dragon, immemorial sea dragon, immemorial blood dragon, and immemorial wind dragon to gather the immemorial 9 dragons. Ming shouted proudly. In the sky of the chaotic land, 5 immemorial divine dragons that were hundreds of thousands of feet long were pulling the celestial emperor's war chariot, breaking through one disaster after another. Di Tian stood on the war chariot and rushed towards the ice region. After Tian Can, Huang Quan, and the others captured an immemorial dragon with their inescapable net, they went to different regions to capture other immemorial dragons. Nether, do you feel like there's a pair of eyes staring at us from the shadows? The Celestial Emperor's war chariot pierced through the sky at an unparalleled speed. However, Di Tian, who was standing on the war chariot, had an inexplicable solemn expression on his face. He did not know why, but ever since he left the ancient tomb on the Mountain of Flames, he had a vague feeling that there was a pair of eyes silently watching him from the void. Although this feeling was vague, Di Tian still caught it clearly. He immediately knew that he had been targeted by a powerful existence. What? You mean that someone is secretly watching us? Ming couldn't help but be shocked when she heard this. and she immediately sent out a strand of divine perception to scan the surroundings. However, he found nothing. Oh no, it seems that a powerful expert is secretly watching us, Ming said with a solemn expression. Although he did not feel anything, he trusted Di Shirtian and his intuition. That kind of feeling could not be wrong. Since he said that there was a pair of eyes watching them, there must be someone spying on them, an existence that even Di Shirtian could not detect. Only a powerful expert who was stronger than the ancient heavenly demons. As soon as I left the ancient tomb, I was inexplicably watched. Could it be related to Tao, Lord Divine Crow, in the ancient tomb? He said that the iron chain that bound Tao, Lord Divine Crow, was refined by himself. But the iron chain clearly had the remnants of myriad calamity patriarchs, myriad calamity true force. It is not the sun true force at all. It seems that Tao Lord Divine Crow's words cannot be trusted easily. Di Shirtian's mind quickly turned, thinking of a way to get rid of that gaze. However, he also felt humiliated in his heart. Just a single gaze was enough to render him helpless. Rumble. The 5 primordial fierce dragons pulled the chariot. In the blink of an eye, they had already appeared outside a snow-white area. Countless wind and snow blew coldly. Countless thick ice crystals formed on the ground. Countless snowy mountains and icebergs soared into the sky. The terrifying snowstorm was almost continuously rolling. Countless sharp weapons cut the void open. In the ice layer on the ground, there were countless ice and snow traps. All kinds of terrifying cold air swept in all directions. All living things were sealed in ice. All living things that entered were completely turned into countless ice sculptures. It was a chilling sight. However, there were still terrifying, ferocious beasts condensed from ice in this ice domain. The wind and snow intertwined with each other, bringing about an endless, dangerous aura. The Celestial Emperor's chariot stopped outside the ice domain and did not immediately enter. Di Shirtian suddenly looked up at the void. His expression was as calm as usual, and his body was overflowing with a strong majesty. His Black Emperor's robe fluttered even though there was no wind. He opened his mouth and said word by word, "Come out. Aren't you ashamed of peeping in the dark with your status as an unparalleled expert?" There was a hint of mockery in his words. There was no hint of submission in his tone because of the other party's strength. He did not hide his ridicule of peeping. It was a despicable act. "Crazy D, you're crazy." This sentence scared Dark, who was in the nether prison, so much so that he was almost paralyzed. Her 2 dragon eyes stared like light bulbs, and her little heart was beating wildly. She actually dared to scold an almighty who was obviously a peerless expert for peeping. My goodness, even a bear's guts are not that big. Rumble. Almost instantly, the sky above the land of chaos suddenly changed color, and countless snowflakes emerged out of thin air. The temperature of the whole world dropped instantly. Almost in the blink of an eye, countless ice crystals appeared in the air, and inches of ice formed on the ground. The cold wind swept toward the Celestial Emperor's chariot. A vast pressure came crashing down from the top of his head. The pressure was so strong that it directly caused the sky to change. Under that pressure, Di Shirtian was like an ordinary mortal facing the majestic Mount Tai. He felt like he was looking at a deity. That pressure came crashing down as though it was going to force Di Shirtian to kneel down. Humph! Di Shirtian let out a cold snort. His body shook, and a supreme emperor's aura burst out from his body. It was like a huge mountain range, standing tall and straight. His whole body stood proudly like a saber. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chijian.com and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.